You're smoking some of the best dope God ever put breath in.
Thank God it's Friday!
All right, welcome to the Young Turks. Cenk here, John Niderlo with you guys today. Lots of coverage today, of course. Huge day as always. Epstein is in the news. We're going to get to him. I know, shocking. And MAGA revolt all over the place on that. Donald Trump with a huge walk back just happened a little while ago. Reversing course on one of his major policies. Marjorie Taylor Greene versus Donald Trump. So we got a big show with the MAGA Civil War very much continuing. All right,
yeah,
John.
You actually do love to see it.
Yeah,
no sarcasm necessary. For once, you do.
I love to see it for a lot of reasons, and not just because the other side is fighting, but because there's some folks on the other side that are actually for the first time in their lives, or at least in my life of seeing it, are starting to make sense.
Yeah.
And then when they put they shiv the bad guys, like the extra bad guys on the other side. Oh, that's beautiful to see.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, it's like Grima Wormtongue knifing Saruman. It's like, well, I didn't really like you, but that's a good development.
Yeah.
Did I go too deep into Lord of the Rings? Anyway, to take it back to the news, there's an example of exactly what you're talking about in the C block. I was on Truth Social, I don't know why, but I was, and I saw stuff that gave me hope. It's a weird experience. We'll talk about it later on.
Yeah, we're gonna ask you guys about that in a minute too.
Yeah.
All right, so let's tell you guys all about it instead of constantly alluding to it without ever telling you.
Yeah, very soon we're gonna tell you all about it. That's coming up in just a little bit. Anyway, okay, let's just jump into the Epstein stuff.
He wasn't just any old rich American. He was well connected to top players all over the world, from Israel to Saudi Arabia. And it wasn't a secret. Primetime wants to get to the bottom of the Epstein saga more than anybody. We've been covering the story for years. But the story isn't about Trump. It's about foreign intelligence, blackmail, and cover-ups.
That is a dramatic opener, and I'm glad to see it from Jesse Waters. After all, he has been fighting for transparency on Epstein harder than anyone else in the media, obviously, we all know that. But that right there, that was pretty bold, pretty big, because it wasn't just about like Epstein and Trump or Epstein and Bill Clinton or whatever. That was his international connections, which I know, Cenk, is something that you've been very focused on. What are your 2 cents?
Yeah, so first off, it's hilarious that he's like, we're gonna get to the bottom of this, but not Trump. Definitely not Trump. If he's at the bottom, we're not getting to the bottom, okay? But overall, though, I agree with John. It's an interesting development that they're now talking about intelligence agencies on Fox News, right? So as you're gonna see in this story, there's a lot of drama of different players within the right wing now beginning to question orthodoxy and go, wait, what's actually happening with the Epstein story?
Yeah.
And so we've got a lot, I got a lot of opinions on that, but I want to show you the Civil War first.
Yeah, we need to talk about some of the reporting being done by Drop Site News. And it's a fascinating intersection of a couple of different areas where MAGA is starting to question things that just happen to all line up on this story. So they revealed in their recent reporting that has been discussed on the show previously that Epstein, who had been in close contact with the former Israeli Prime Minister Barak, helped arrange a security agreement between Israel and Mongolia, that's a big position for this guy who just managed money for rich people to all of a sudden be in. Helped arrange a meeting with Barak and Vladimir Putin in an attempt to topple Bashar al-Assad of Syria. Helped Barak sell the country of the Ivory Coast on a mass surveillance program, and hosted a senior Israeli intelligence officer at his apartment on multiple occasions. He was a very busy boy, I guess. But for the most part, the national conversation that has been developing, especially again this week around the Epstein files, has focused on Donald Trump and whether he's in it, whether he's not. Whereas now we're getting some revelations about broader international concerns. And here is more from that reporting from Jesse Waters.
The Jeffrey Epstein emails. Congress is dumping thousands of documents, and Democrats are using them to frame Trump. But we've been combing through them and can't find anything nailing Trump. Even Axios says the emails contained no real smoking gun. But when it comes to Trump, Jeffrey had TDS. I have met some very bad people, none as bad as Trump. Not one decent cell in his body. Trump should wear that like a badge of honor. The slimiest guy in the world hating you is a good thing. Epstein even admitted Trump, quote, never got a massage. The same author Epstein colluded with even said this.
Epstein believed that it was Trump who first informed the police about what was going on at Epstein's house.
Ghislaine Maxwell said Trump did nothing wrong. So have Epstein's victims and Epstein's lawyer. And none of these emails implicate Trump. So we're back to square one.
I mean, I think he is back to square one of wanting to talk about the story in a way that maybe hurts the Democrats, but definitely doesn't hurt Donald Trump. After all, nothing in the emails looks bad for Trump. Except for the stuff that really does. Like him spending hours with one of the victims at Epstein's home. Trump refuses to talk about that. Jesse Waters, you wanna know how bad that is for Trump? Trump won't address it, actually. You don't think that's interesting? And when Carolyn Leavitt was asked about that, she didn't confirm or deny it. But nothing is bad for, I mean, even Axios. What, is that supposed to be like a commie rag or something? He thinks Axios, oh my God, they got Axios. Like, yeah, no, I don't think there's anything in these emails that is wildly more damaging to Trump than many of the other things we've already seen. But it's not that those things weren't damaging, it's just that Jesse Waters didn't care about those either, because fundamentally he doesn't care what Donald Trump did or didn't do. He's just not interested. If he had a tape of Donald Trump with multiple underage women, he would set it on fire to protect his dear leader. That is who he is, and that's the movement that he is a part of. But anyway, I guess it's good that he feels freed up to talk about Epstein in other areas at the very least.
Yeah, so I think the most important part is the first video we showed you, but let me take it one by one. On Trump, are there things that incriminate Trump in the emails? He says there are none. No, that's not true at all. So there's an email where he says, yeah, he spent hours with Virginia Giuffre in my house in 2011. And the theoretical cover story was that Trump got rid of Epstein back in like 2003. So 8 years later, spending hours at Epstein's house with one of the victims. So it's not like there's anything incriminating, there is. But is there a smoking gun where it says, there's an email that goes, now remember when Donald Trump had sex with the 13 or 15, 17-year-old? No, there is not that, but then there isn't that about anyone, right?
Yeah.
So it's not as exculpatory as they're painting it out to be. Now that being said, fair show in America, I don't know that, I've never really thought that Trump was likely to do it. Like if you showed me evidence saying, no, in fact, he did do it, and when he was at Epstein's house, he did X, Y, and Z, would I believe it? Of course I'd believe it. It's not like I mean, Trump keeps saying about how much he likes young girls at different times. It's like and he knew about Epstein, and he knew that he was running the young girls, and he didn't mind, etc. So I would certainly believe it. But part of the reason why I've always been a little bit skeptical is because Trump grew up under the tutelage of Roy Cohn. And Roy Cohn used to tape everyone, and Trump knew that Roy Cohn taped everyone. So he had his radar up for being taped. So it's kind of like the Steele dossier, where they're like, oh, he had women urinating on a bed. I'm like, Trump's a germaphobe. That doesn't sound right, right? So that's why, yeah, I get it. You could focus on Bill Clinton. You could focus on Donald Trump. You could focus on anyone you like, right? But to me, the much larger issue is, who was Jeffrey Epstein working for? Because yeah, he got a bunch of rich, powerful people, presumably on tape, had some sort of hold over them, right? Was he just doing it for himself, or was he doing it, as Waters suggested there in his opening, for an intelligence agency? Now a lot of people think, yeah, of course it was for an intelligence agency. And look at the drop site news bombshells that all of mainstream media is ignoring. So wait a minute. Epstein was so powerful, put aside the agencies for a second. He was so powerful that he could arrange a meeting for the former prime minister of Israel with Putin. That the former prime minister of Israel, the most powerful country on earth, couldn't do on his own.
Yeah.
So Epstein was more powerful than the leaders of Israel? That is unbelievable. So if this was not a rando like, oh yeah, hey, I'm a pervert and I did this and it was just me. If it was just Epstein, how is he arranging meetings with the Mongolians, with Putin, and affecting world politics in a significant way? No, of course he's connected, of course. Look, you'd have to be a maniacal clown not to see that he's connected.
Yeah.
And then what was his agenda for which country? In all the emails, does he like, oh, well, we got to get this for America and make sure you're looking out for American interests? No, in all the emails, looking out for Israel's interest. It's in the emails, it's super clear, right? And he says, okay, now he is conspiring with Ehud Barak, the former prime minister of Israel. And he's like, okay, we got to get America to bomb Syria. You got to get America to bomb Syria for Israel, and you're doing that with the Israeli prime minister. Gee, I wonder who he's working with. That's so complicated. In other emails, from Ehud Barak's emails, he's talking about, oh yeah, we also got to get America to attack Iran and bomb Iran. Is this complicated? It's not. It's actually crystal clear. The only reason why we aren't all having a giant national conversation about how Epstein clearly worked for Israel is because the national media is disgustingly biased and they will not criticize Israel under penalty of law. I mean, they're not just avoiding the major topic here, they're hiding the news.
Yeah.
These are verifiable emails Drop Site News got. It is not arguable. Epstein is all over the Barak emails saying, literally conspiring to help to manipulate America on behalf of Israel. Where's the complicated part?
Yeah. Well, and if you need a connection to Donald Trump, I mean, in his first term, massively accelerated the bombing in Syria, and as soon as he came into his second term, launched a war against Iran.
Yeah, and so
which, by the way, like you said that you don't believe that Donald Trump, I guess, did anything untoward, illegally, sexually with Epstein.
I'd be surprised, but I definitely am not.
I'd be less surprised, but I also don't think it's the only potential explanation for the single biggest smoking gun. I mean, it's a smoking gun in that you can see the smoke. We don't have the proof, but Jesse Waters, like all of them, wants to ignore the single most damaging thing about all this. If Donald Trump did nothing, his entire last 6-month strategy around this story makes no sense whatsoever. Yes. We've never had a politician that has fought harder to hide something, and ineptly, as Donald Trump is, in damaging himself in a self-sabotaging way. Donald Trump would rather anything happen than this information come out. And maybe it's sexual, maybe it's not. Maybe it has to do with the stuff that we're talking about right now.
Yeah, so John, that's a terrific point. And so Trump is definitely hiding something. Then the question is, what is he hiding? Because 83% of Republican voters want the Epstein files released. That's a CBS News poll that just came out. And Trump said any Republican who wants it released is falling for the Epstein hoax, is weak and stupid and a fool. That's him saying 8 out of 10 Republican voters are idiots and I hate them, right? That is a hell of a thing to say about your own voters.
Yeah.
So you only say that and you go through these desperate efforts. You drag Lauren Boebert into the Situation Room with the FBI director, Attorney General. You go through Mike Johnson. Hey, all of you Republicans in Congress, burn your careers. Look like you're pro-Epstein if you're hiding something. But John, Biden hid it. All the Democrats hid it, all the Republicans hid it. If it was just Trump, there's no way in the world the Democrats would have hid it. No way. They would have said it first and foremost and 1,000 times.
If it was just sexual, there'd be less reason to hide it then.
Yes, yes. And even if it was Democrats that were involved, Democrats throw other Democrats legally under the bus all the time. Menendez isn't going to jail, and you've got investigations of Democratic senators, congressmen, et cetera. Maybe because like some of the names are so large, et cetera. But overall, no. The overwhelming mountain of evidence is the entire United States government is covering it up because it involves an intelligence agency, and it very, 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 very likely our so-called special ally, Israel. And if people found out that Israel had an asset, sleep, molest, rape young American girls to get compromising information on powerful and rich Americans, I think people would be furious. And that is why the media is like, no. Everybody hide the truth, don't talk about it. So now when it comes back to Trump, he's at minus 39 on this issue. I've never seen something like that because he's lost his entire base, let alone Democrats, let alone independents. So yes, Trump is definitively hiding something.
Yeah.
But is it something that Israel has on him not related to this? Is it related to this? Is it as something as ridiculous as they have him on tape being naked and he's so ego driven that he's like, no, I'll do anything. I don't know. But come on, guys, even look, at this point, I don't even have to say even if you're MAGA. MAGA's even more upset in a lot of ways. Obviously, Trump's hiding something.
Yeah.
The question is what?
Exactly, yeah. Well, why don't we get into some more perspectives on all of this? We started with Fox News. Let's turn now to Dan Abrams.
Is this a cover-up, right? Of course it's a cover-up. How do we know? We know because Pam Bondi said she was going to release all of the documents. The FBI said they were going to release. Kash Patel was calling for the release, and now they're not releasing the documents. Now, does that mean that that's because Donald Trump engaged in criminal activity? No. In fact, you talk to the people who've actually talked to all the victims in this case, and they will tell you that they don't have any evidence of Donald Trump engaging in any criminal activity. So the truth is, if they release the documents, it is probably the case that there wouldn't be any evidence of Donald Trump engaging in criminal activity. But there would also be probably evidence of things that are embarrassing for Donald Trump, things he doesn't want out there. And I think there's an important distinction there to talk about in connection with that. But there is no question that anyone else would not be able to survive this.
Right.
Donald Trump, I think by 2026, this issue will be forgotten.
Yeah, look, I can't say for sure exactly when he references stuff that might be embarrassing. I don't know if he's thinking of things that could be embarrassing but not illegal in the sexual realm, or embarrassing in the wider sense having to do with foreign policy communications with foreign leaders or whatever. That could encompass a lot of different things. If it's just stuff that is embarrassing but not illegal sexually, look, Donald Trump does not want to be embarrassed, obviously, but what could it possibly be in that area that would be worse for him if it came out than the cover-up has been? Because the cover-up has made him look so bad, not just to the opposition, not just people with like pink hats on or whatever, but like even MAGA thinks he looks super suspicious. I don't know how, man, that angle of him naked must have been really bad to justify all of this. I don't buy it.
Yeah, so look, he had me at a place where I'm like, okay, I don't mind what he's saying. It's definitely a cover-up, that's true, right? Might not be Donald Trump. I agree, it might not be Donald Trump that did it. He lost me at, it'll be forgotten by 2026. Oh, come on, brother, what planet are you on? No, it will not be forgotten within a month and a half. No, let alone a year and a half, let alone a decade. And look, I like Dan. I wouldn't describe him as Israel first, but does he love and cherish Israel? Yes. So, and now he's in a pattern of people who love and cherish Israel, who are like, this is a minor issue. It's really, we gotta go. It's not a big deal. It's come on. We're gonna forget about it. You already forgot, right? Right. Which leads us to Laura Loomer.
Yeah, and Mike Johnson said it was a moot point. So yeah,
so Mark Levin, Ben Shapiro, they're all like, what's the big deal? Guys, you're giving away what's happening. You're making it super obvious.
Yeah. Well, here's what Laura Loomer had to say. We've talked about the regular people. Let's go to the philosophers now. Laura Loomer says, you can't be outraged by the Epstein saga and simultaneously not be outraged by the fact that we have Muslims serving in Congress. Their prophet was an infamous pedophile. Nobody wants to talk about that. Is that the most relevant thing going on right now? By the way, it is true though. Only Islam has weird sex stuff hidden. None of the other religions, they're all squeaky clean.
Catholics,
it's just boom. Islam. No, Catholics, model religion, obviously in that area. No, she's just a terrible, hateful person. That's all it is. Now, obviously, there is an agenda there, as I'm sure you're referencing. But
yeah, exactly.
She also believes that we should have religious tests for public office.
So there's two things in there, right? One is. Stop talking about Epstein. The Muslims, right? So lately what's happening is, so there's like, you'll be shocked to find out there's a lot of Israeli bots and trolls that follow me online, okay? And so they all have the same talking points and they rotate through them, right? So one of the talking points is Epstein's not at all important, no one should talk about it. Things that make you go home. Okay, the second thing is what Laura Loomer's doing here. But wait a minute, don't forget about the Muslims. And remember, don't hate the Jews. That's against anti-Semite. They should be canceled forever and ever. No one should ever speak to them again because they criticize Israel. They're anti-Semites and bigots. We can't accept bigots like this. The Muslims, that's the ones you should hate. You should hate them to your core. You should hate all of them. How can you say, don't be bigoted against Jews, and then turn around and say, definitely be bigoted against Muslims? And I know, why are they all doing it? Laura's just like the queen bee of Israel first, right? The reason they're doing it is they think that the right-wing voters in America are inherently racist and hateful, so they want to redirect their hate. They're like, oh, you're hating Israel. I don't like that. I don't. Hey, redirect the hate. Move the ship, move the ship. Remember, we trained you and we brainwashed you to hate all of our neighbors so that when we attack them and take their land, we appear to be the victims and you already despise them. Oh, look at that. It's the same neighbors, the Muslims. Remember to hate the Muslims. And that is Israeli propaganda. So don't tell me not to hate Israel. Look, I get past it anyway, and I want them to be safe, and I want two beautiful independent states, but that's because I'm a wonderful person. The state of Israel has done overwhelming propaganda to try to get Americans to hate Muslims, to hate my family, to hate my community, and unfortunately it has worked. And so they are disgusting. Their government, they're terrorists, they are fascist. It's not close. They've done 75 October 7ths. If one October 7th is terrible, which it is, 75 is much, 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 much worse. They are much worse than Hamas. That is an empirical fact. Yeah. They target people, civilians, at a higher rate. Mark Levin on tape, Tucker Carlson criticized him the other day on the show. Mark Levin saying, yeah, we should kill their civilians. Randy Fine saying we should kill their civilians. That is literally what terrorists say.
And starve their kids.
Yeah, and nuke them and all that. So it's a terrorist state, backed by a bunch of terrorist sympathizers in this country like Mark Levin, Randy Fine, and Laura Loomer. And now their effort is to get you to ignore Epstein and the folks who actually did crimes against Americans.
Yeah.
And the way that they're gonna get you to ignore it is by getting you to hate a different religious group. And so it's doubly disgusting. And that is exactly what Laura Loomer is. She is the personification of disgusting.
Yeah, yeah. She's like that sludge in Star Trek: The Next Generation. It's just hatred that just accrues into a black mass. That's all it is. And that's her. Barely disguised. Why don't we turn directly to Donald Trump's attempt to get a hold on this, because he's been working on it a little bit. Donald Trump doesn't seem to know how to get control over the Epstein thing. Like, he already had Adelita Grijalva coming in, there was gonna be the vote, then the emails came out, and it's looking worse every day. And he's freaking out, especially because it seems like there's gonna be a lot more Republican support for releasing the documents than he expected. What do you make of that, Cenk?
Yeah, I think that he is melting down in a beautiful way. But I think that what's happening is in the meltdown, he's giving us clues. So let's talk about that as you tell us.
I like clues. Okay, well, let's jump into first what he had to say and then some of the Republican reactions to it. So he took more than a full day off of Truth Social posting, which is already like, if that's happening, there's something big going on. Either it's that bad of a scandal or the micro seizures have gotten really bad. Those are the only times he takes a full day off. So when he did come around to it, he said the Democrats are doing everything in their withering power to push the Epstein hoax again. Some capital W weak Republicans have fallen into their clutches because they are soft and foolish. Epstein was a Democrat and he's the Democrats' problem, not the Republicans' problem. But if he was a Democrat, why was he your best friend for literally decades? I don't know, maybe it was a bipartisan friendship, I don't know. So anyway, it's not his problem, it's their problem. Well, there evidently are a lot of weak and soft Republicans these days because many of them are saying, no, we should probably get to the bottom of this. First, here is Senator John Kennedy.
Well, here is the way that my people here in Louisiana see it, Casey. My people want to know who else, if anyone, did Epstein traffic young women to? And if they were punished, how were they punished? And if they weren't punished, why? Now, President Trump has turned that issue over to Attorney General Bondi. And I don't know how she is going to answer that question for the American people without releasing all the records. Maybe she can, but I just don't think this issue is going to go away until that issue is addressed and answered to the American people's satisfaction. Yeah. And I may end up with a sombrero on my head for saying that, but that's the way I see it.
That's actually kind of the funniest thing I think he's ever said at the end, because that's probably what's gonna happen. I would say maybe the sombrero and then a plane would dump diarrhea on you. But yeah, look, and that's not a guy that has been like fighting gung-ho to release his stuff all this time. I feel like he's probably getting a lot of pressure from his constituents to do something about this. And it's not just him. Here is Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene.
This is information that has needed to come out for a very long time, and the American people have demanded it. And so the American people deserve to see transparency from their government. Rich, powerful people should not be protected. That is completely wrong. And it's a message to victims everywhere, victims of rape, human trafficking, and children who are trapped in terrible situations, that the government will not protect the predators, that we will work hard to protect the victims.
And so that's good. Now, she more so than John Kennedy has been consistent on this for a number of months, including not only signing on to the discharge petition, but also showing up at that press conference of the survivors. Now, that said, despite the fact that throughout this week, her feud with Donald Trump has been accelerating pretty fast, and I've enjoyed seeing that, she, at least as of like yesterday, is still pretending like Donald Trump wants transparency. And that is such a ridiculous thing to claim to believe at this point. And it's not just her, they're all doing that. Lauren Boebert, after being brought into the Situation Room to take her name off of the discharge petition, comes out and says, I'm fighting with Donald Trump for transparency. Like, no, you're not. You're not at all. This dude wants to kill this story. He doesn't want a single page to ever be released. And so I hate that they can't be honest about that. I understand the pressure they're under. They don't want to have a sombrero on their head in Truth Social. But anyway, it is good to see them coming out and saying disclosure should happen. We'll end with Representative Thomas Massie, obviously, who helped to begin that discharge petition. He said, Republicans should consider a post-Trump world ahead of the Epstein vote. They need to look past 2028 and wonder if they want this on their record for the rest of their political career. Because eventually, Donald Trump is not gonna be around to protect them or to try to distract from this issue. And we know that the base wants to focus on this topic. And so if you voted to stop this stuff from coming out, that could show up in ads, that could show up on the debate stage. It would not be a good look for them.
Yeah, so look, Donald Trump is giving you clues by giving the game away. So later in the show, we're gonna talk more about how he's saying, okay, now I want you to investigate Epstein. Wait, I thought you said it was a hoax, but only Democrats. But when you say only Democrats, that implies you know for a fact that Republicans also did it. Because I wouldn't say to you, look, I want you to investigate how Israel is manipulating our Congress, but not Turkey. Because then you think, why is Turkey also doing it, right? And so, but it doesn't know any better, and so he attacks his own voters and he attacks his own party, and that's a mistake. And so now the mistake is proven by not by Greene or Massie, but by Kennedy. Why? Because Tom Massie's been right about this from day one, and he's been principled, and that's why we give him credit. He votes with the Republicans 91% of the time. That means I disagree with him 91% of the time, okay? Maybe 87, 89, right? But overall, no, I don't agree with his policies, but he's been honest, and you gotta give the brother his due. Now, Marjorie Taylor Greene came into that camp. Now there are two of them, as they would say in Star Wars. Okay, okay. And
great movie.
And give Marjorie Taylor Greene a lot of credit for standing up, doing the right thing, being honest. And that was a great line about, hey, we're supposed to protect the victims, not the predators, right? So that's a comeuppance to Trump that is significant. I mean, that's like now a Tombstone reference. That's a slap across the face. We're gonna sit there and bleed all day, or are you gonna do something about it? And Trump's like, oh, panicky, Don't investigate me. Don't, Bill Clinton, some other guy, okay? But not Israel and not me. Not Israel, not me, not Israel, not me, okay? You're kind of giving the game away. So why is Kennedy the most relevant? Because Kennedy is an old school politician. He's foghorn leghorn, right? And he's been around forever. And Kennedy doesn't move unless all of his voters have moved, okay? Yeah. So Kennedy's gonna stick with the powerful, he's gonna stick with his donors, he's gonna stick with Trump, and we've seen him do it. If he moves, it's only because that's it. If he doesn't move, he's gonna lose power because his base is gone.
Yeah.
And that's why he kept saying, my people are chickens, but still, they've also said Trump did it. No, they're not saying, to be fair, the Republicans in Louisiana aren't saying Trump did it. They're saying somebody did it.
Yeah.
And it's obvious that Trump, like every administration before him, is hiding and protecting the predators and not the victims.
Yeah. Well, why don't we take our first break? We come back. We have actually a bit more of that feud between Marjorie Taylor Greene and Trump, but not on Epstein. This time we're going to be talking about prices.
All right, so you got a message for John Idarola?
Tell him to be nice to me.
All right, guys, let's go to our members on TYT.com. Church of Illinois says, hello, everyone. Trumpelstein administration in a bit of a chaos and just watched the latest South Park, so it truly is a good Friday. Yeah, fair enough. Art Guy says, Cenk, you'll have to be more specific about which bad guys are getting shivved. There's a lot of them. Well, one of them that is absolutely clear is Mark Levin. Mark Levin is now getting attacked by everyone, and everyone on the right, let alone the left, etc. And they've had enough of his BS. So everybody's a Nazi. If you don't like Israel, you're a Nazi. 98% of this country are Nazis. Right? All right, brother, give it a shot. See how it turns out for you. It's not turning out well. And there are others. Virginia and South Carolina says, we got rid of the penny, but at least we got Cenk's 2 cents. Okay, I'm here for you, Virginia. You know that. Meowsers clause the established meownt, writes in. Funny every time. So Trump is the one who took down Epstein, but instead of relentlessly claiming credit, he does nothing but avoid the topic. Sure.
Yeah.
That's a great way of putting it. Yeah. He took down Epstein. No, Epstein, not Epstein, it's a hoax.
Wait, how thing I took down is a hoax.
Exactly. Okay. I love this audience. K-Dragon battling for truth and justice says Trump's a goon, a big goon with a hideous hair. Goon, I say, goon. That's funny. Newfie Dragon says, yeah, John's looking pretty cool rocking that purple tie. Oh, okay, I didn't even notice it was purple. He does, he looks good. A little bit. Look very professional. Okay. CB1 says, it's not like Trump has ever been accused of something like rape before. Oh yeah.
That's what I do.
I'm worried about it. Eclectic Miscellaneous says, Trump barges in Miss-teen dressing rooms unannounced on more than one occasion. I wouldn't put anything past that monster. He's been found liable of sexual abuse in a court of law and has been accused other times as well. No, I'm not putting it past him. I'm just saying I don't know yet. But like if you told me, if we had evidence that he did it, I'd be like, yeah, that fits a pattern, right? Yeah. And when the barging into the room, and as you know, he said, why you buy the pageant so you can do whatever you want? What can any time? It's Miss Teen USA, you monster.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I do.
Well, Megyn Kelly would say he's not a monster.
I mean, it's only 15 and above. That's,
Sometimes.
Anyway, Panic on Funkatron says, good to have your power on this panel, John. Don Dada Dragon says, just remember, Democrats are on that list. Beware of the imminent betrayal of Caesar. Ooh, interesting. All right, back on TYT, Cenk and John with you guys. More news.
Okay, let's turn now to the topic of prices.
President Trump and his administration does deserve a lot of credit for lowering inflation and holding it steady, but that doesn't bring prices down. And so gaslighting the people and trying to tell them that prices have come down is not helping. It's actually infuriating people because people know what they're paying at the grocery store. They know what they're paying for their kids' clothes and school supplies. You don't gaslight them, you don't lecture them, and you don't deny what's happening.
That is, of course, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene on Sean Spicer's show yesterday, and the gap between her and Donald Trump appears to be growing by the day because she's not just saying he's not doing enough on prices, she's saying he's gaslighting. He's lecturing. Effectively, she's saying he's lying about the situation. That seems like a nice step forward away from Donald Trump and towards the truth. What do you think?
I think this is really important because now we're not just talking about Epstein or Israel or foreign policy. Now we're at the core of other Republicans, mind you, it's only a couple, but an important one, a really important one, starting to call him out on economic issues. Oh, that's important. So there's some interesting poll results that I want to tell you about as to who is more MAGA, Marjorie Taylor Greene or Trump. Jerome's. So interesting developments. We'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah, well, you can't spell MAGA without Marjorie. Well, that probably doesn't work out, but it's closer than Donald.
Think about it.
It is closer. That's just linguistics. But anyway, he has been gaslighting people and he has been lying to people. She is right about that. He was doing it even earlier today when he posted on True Social, cost and inflation were far higher under the sleepy Joe Biden administration than they are now. In fact, costs under the Trump administration are tumbling down, helped greatly by gasoline and energy. Affordability is a lie when used by the Dems. It is a complete con job. Thanksgiving costs are 25% lower this year than last under Crooked Joe. We are the party of affordability. Which is weird because just like 5 days ago, he was saying, I don't want to hear about affordability. Now he's scrambling to come up with a way to talk about being for affordability. There's a lot of lies there, obviously. The fact that gas prices have gone down significantly is just not true. In the last year, on average, nationally, it's gone down 1 cent a gallon. That's good, I guess. It's technically dropped, but not significantly. The Thanksgiving costs, again, that's already been a debunked thing about one particular Thanksgiving meal from one supplier that now has generics rather than name brand food and has significantly fewer items in it. It's not a general idea of how much your Thanksgiving is going to cost. So this is exactly the sort of gaslighting that Congresswoman Greene was talking about. And let's get to some of what she had to say about that. On Twitter, she said, inflation hit a 40-year record high of 9% under Biden. I give President Trump and his administration credit for bringing it down to 2.5%, but prices are still sky high and families are drowning in debt. Congress needs to get to work. The American people can no longer afford more excuses. Now, that's not accurate in a number of different ways. It's 2.7%, it's close to 2.5, but she is slightly off there. And also, it's not like it randomly got to 9% under Joe Biden. There was a little bit of historic context necessary there. And she's also like acting as if it was 9% for the 4 years of the Biden administration. And then Trump came in and took it from 9 down to 2.7. That's not what happened at all. I don't know if she knows that and is being dishonest or just doesn't know. But in any event, the headline inflation rate rose to 3% year over year. From 2.9% in August. So it actually ticked up very slightly from August to September. That's the highest level since January. And you also have particular product categories like beef and coffee that have experienced especially significant increases. The core rate, excluding food and energy, ticked down to 3% from 3.1%. So I think in both of those cases, it's relatively steady over the last month or so. And we're gonna talk later on the show about things like beef and food and coffee, what he might be trying to do now to get those prices down. But we already know that Americans are not happy about all this. We've been covering it on the network for a long time. The polls are going further and further away from Donald Trump on this topic. Over half, 55% of US adults see the economy as deteriorating under Trump's watch. That's according to a recent Economist YouGov poll. His net approval on inflation and the economy has swung from slightly positive immediately after the inauguration to sharply negative right now. And Monster.com did a survey that found that 95% of Americans say their paychecks have lagged behind the cost of living, with 94% specifically pointing to groceries as the fastest rising expense over the past year. And so I'm glad that Trump is now putting the word affordability in a true social message, but let's also be clear, he wouldn't be doing that if we hadn't been criticizing him. And if Zoran Mamdani hadn't made such a big deal out of it, and now perhaps because people like Marjorie Greene are putting pressure on him.
Yeah, there's lots of things to go over here. First, look, gaslighting was, let's be honest, well, MAGA is not gonna agree, but the rest of us, was Trump and the Republicans 101 for the last decade. Everything was gaslighting. They're eating cats and dogs. Yeah, no, they are. Yeah, I mean, I could give you, yeah, the hurricane went that way. I could give you a million examples. Yeah. And they always all in unison gaslit. If Trump said something, then they all backed him and said, oh yeah, he's a model of health, he's 215 pounds. I mean, we can go on and on and on, right? He's never done anything wrong financially, never hired undocumented immigrants, although he hired them on every job and every project. Okay, that's not the interesting part. The interesting part is that Marjorie Taylor Greene is trying to end the gaslighting. Wow, that's a turn of events, right? And so, is that because, and mainstream media sometimes paints it this way, and it's very frustrating because it's almost like either they're totally clueless or they're doing some sort of weird propaganda. They're making it seem like she's defying Trump and hence defying MAGA and is less conservative now. That's not true at all. And so she right now introduced legislation to kill all H-1B visas. That is very conservative, right? And I don't agree with that. She hasn't moved at all on any of her positions on that stuff. She's moved on Israel. She didn't move on Epstein files. She was always for releasing it. Before she didn't talk much about Israel and generally supported them, and now is saying, why are we continuing to give them money? So a little bit of movement there, a little bit of movement on drug prices, but overall, but it's not an anti-conservative position to be for lower drug prices. Both Democratic and Republican voters want lower drug prices. They want less war. They were all clear. So look, I asked this in a couple of different places, and I'm going to tell you something interesting that happened on X. But on TYT.com, we're asking you guys out of curiosity, what do you think? Now I get it, we're largely a progressive audience, right? Lots of independents on here, even in some conservatives as well. But on TYT.com, who do you think is more MAGA, more true to the MAGA positions? Donald Trump or Marjorie Taylor Greene? Because Trump's now more pro-war, she's anti-war, right? They wanted the Epstein files released, he doesn't want them released, and now look, you're seeing it there, right? Now that's a small sample size because we just started it and you can go vote TYT.com, that's open to everybody. Okay, but then I asked on X, and that's where it gets more interesting because there's a lot more MAGA guys on X, right? And a lot of them follow me, which is kind of an interesting phenomenon that's occurred, right? So I ask who's more MAGA, Trump or Marjorie Taylor Greene? First 4,000 votes, it's a landslide, 82-18 Marjorie Taylor Greene, okay? Then all of a sudden, tons of votes start coming in. Another 4,000 come in, all of a sudden it's 50-50. And then another 4,000 votes come in, and all of a sudden Trump's taking the lead 53-47. I don't know who's doing that or why they're doing that, right?
The red mirage.
But some late faction, either sent by someone or maybe organic, right? We don't know. All of a sudden, like, no. Trump is more MAGA, and I don't know what else it connects to, but they're trying to put that agenda forward. But on the policies, including this one, wait a minute, you ran on inflation and on affordability. That was your, even more than immigration, that was your #1 topic in the election. Now to say, I don't want to hear about affordability is not a pro-MAGA position, at least based on how Trump ran in 2024. So I think she's more true MAGA, but it's fascinating that one person that is true MAGA has decided to become honest. I don't mean one person among the voters, I mean among the leadership, among politicians and media. And so, and if you're being honest, of course prices went up, right? Later in the show, we're gonna talk about JD Vance lying through his teeth. I mean, he's hilarious. He's talking about housing prices. Like, the housing prices only got up 1% under Trump. Under Biden, they went up. I'm waiting for this. I'm like, is he gonna deal with some fantastical number like 25%, which is gigantic and not true? He said 100%. All housing prices doubled in the 4 years under Biden. Like, so that's the old gaslighting, right? Just lie. And of all people, Marjorie Taylor Greene's like, no, I'm not gonna lie. And I'm gonna fight for the voters that we said we were gonna fight for.
Yeah, I'm just gonna jump in to say, she's not gonna lie about this.
Okay, fair.
In some areas.
Yeah, but I mean, look.
She's being much more honest than the rest of them about this.
No question. And so for all the things that we disagree with her on, she's not lying about them either, right? She's saying, this is my position, and I go, okay, I don't agree with that position. So it's not like she's trying to hide it. So I'm not saying she doesn't do any lies. She's a politician. Okay, come on, guys. And all the people I like on our side also are not perfect in that category. But anyways, truth is broken out in an unexpected way.
Yeah. Well, why don't we take our second break so that we can come back and talk about how Donald Trump appears to understand that he's got an economic issue on his hands and what he's doing to try to fix it. Maybe a little bit, maybe not. We'll break it down after this.
Twitter and X are not reality.
All right, let's go to Super Chat first. 00083 says, Cenk, with all these connections to foreign governments, this Epstein thing has a whole different stink to it. What are we really looking at here? Yeah. I mean, look, if it's not Mossad, it's almost certainly CIA, and maybe it's both of them, because the entire US government is covering it up. And they're not just covering up Epstein's crimes, they're covering up that Epstein was killed in prison. And who has enough power to kill a prisoner in an American prison? The cartels don't even have that kind of power, right? Like, and get away with it and have the whole American government cover it up? Oh, the tape's not working. Oh, the guards were off. Oh, this, oh, that. No, it's an intelligence agency. I'm not even having the conversation anymore. It's definitely an intelligence agency, and really you'd have to like be the most naive person in the world. Oh yeah, maybe he just did all of this giant thing on his own and he has enough power to arrange meetings with Vladimir Putin and former Prime Minister of Israel just on his own. Just like, oh, golly gee, I stumbled. Oh, do I know Putin? Do I know all the world leaders? Do I somehow have a connection to the Mongolian president? Even though I'm not connected to any intelligence agency? He refers in the emails to Mossad's head as #1. Okay, what are you, Jean-Luc Picard? And I mean, Dr. By the way, if you don't know, inside Israel's government, they don't reveal, in the past, they did not reveal the head of Mossad and they would call him #1, okay? So he's using the lingo of the Israeli government. It's so obvious.
Super fast, you just reminded me. They said a minute is cut out of every night's tape. Then we found out that's not actually the case. And in this case, it was multiple minutes. And Pam Bondi was like, yeah, interesting. I'll get back to you about that. It's been months.
No, come on.
We're never getting that tape.
Come on. Look, in fact, Mossad and CIA together is probably the answer. But Mossad seems clear now based on the Barak emails. We didn't have the Ehud Barak emails before. We have them now. The jury's come in, right? Okay, so, I want to go to Twitch for a second. Gal for 71 said, Cenk, will you please quit playing 7 degrees of separation with Israel? Not everything has to do with Israel. Focus on the crap done by people like Trump, Epstein, Clinton, and all the oligarchs to these girls. I really don't care if Bibi Netanyahu is blackmailing Santa Claus through Epstein at this point. No, Galfer, look, on the one hand, I hear you, and sometimes I worry that I go too far. I was gonna connect something else to Israel, and I saw your comment. I was like, okay, I won't, okay? Because you like, even though there's good evidence, you need overwhelming evidence. But on Epstein, you're totally wrong, brother. I mean, how am I not supposed to connect it? He's saying it in the emails. We got to get America to work on behalf of Israel for this, and this. Like, am I supposed to ignore that? Anyway, I love you, brother, but that's a disagreement we got. But on the other hand, back to Super Chat, the Transcendental Man says, so Cenk, what you're saying is you're a liberal Zionist. Is that what I said? Okay, so I think what they're referring to is that I said Israel should exist and be a separate, independent, beautiful state, etc. Yeah, guys, I look, you want my opinion? I think 1948 was an unbelievable injustice, okay? Having said that, they're here now. You're not gonna get rid of Israel, and I don't want you to get rid of Israel. That's crazy talk. TYT, Cenk, John, and Ashley Belote. Ashley, thanks for joining. Hit that big, beautiful join button underneath the video on YouTube. Look, tons of people listen to us on podcasts and watch us on so many different platforms. So guys, tyt.com/join. You help us a lot. We need you. We appreciate you. And if you see us doing the work that we're doing, that's because of you guys. And we love you for it. All right. So I want to tell you about a sponsor. This is the other way we pay our bills. It's Chapter, but in this case, we did our research and we think they're the best in the business here. And on average, and we're getting back feedback from you guys that they are in fact saving you right around that number. On average, they save people $1,100 a year, every year, on their Medicare plans. So if you're on a Medicare plan, you're about to go on a Medicare plan, you got parents on a Medicare plan, please don't waste money. It's a free 20-minute call. And they do the best job of making sure that they're serving you. And we looked into what their incentive and disincentive system is to serve you and not the actual plans. And they're about the only guys in the business that does that. And that's why they save you a lot of money. So 707-TYT-HELP, 707-TYT-HELP to save a lot of money on your Medicare plan, 707-TYT-HELP. All right, John, what's next?
Okay, let's talk about one more thing in the time we have. Earlier today, Donald Trump signed an executive order that retroactively lowers tariffs on a number of different agricultural products, including beef, tomatoes, coffee, and bananas. And he did that amid rising concerns about the cost of these products. The idea being that he's gonna get rid of the tariffs and the prices will go down. But Cenk, I'm very confused about that strategy because it is the foreign countries that pay those tariffs. So why would removing the tariffs lower the price of the goods? I don't get it.
Yeah, that does seem to be a contradiction from what he was saying before. But guys, the main story here is total collapse of Trump's tariff strategy. This is a surrender. He surrendered just now, right before we came on air. And there's a second giant problem with that policy, not just higher prices. I'm gonna tell you about that in a minute. And also part of the reason why he surrendered.
Yeah, and it's also, it's possible that if he does truly believe that the Supreme Court is going to strike down these tariffs, why wait and let the Supreme Court kill it? Why don't you do it and try to get some positive PR out of it along the way? I don't know, that may be beyond him strategically, but it makes some sense to me. Now, there are these reciprocal tariffs. It's one of the areas of his tariff policy. There are many. That's sort of where these had been receiving their 10 to 50% price increases from. The order doesn't exempt the goods entirely from tariffs, though, the new order. So while some of the tariff is gonna be removed from these particular agricultural products, that doesn't mean that they're not receiving a tariff. So for instance, Mexico, which produces a number of tomatoes that get sent to the United States, they're still gonna be tariffed at 17%. So it's not taking it down to nothing, and it's not all products. In fact, this is mostly limited to agricultural goods. There had been a separate executive order earlier this week having to do specifically with, I believe, Sweden, but it's not like all of the tariffs are gone. Even in this area, there are still gonna be tariffs, they're just going to be lower. And that is at least something though. We also, by the way, had an earlier executive order in September, maybe that was the precursor to this. It had directed Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, and the US Trade Representative to decide on exemptions for more than 1,000 product categories, including metals and minerals, antibiotics, plain parts, and foreign agricultural products, including coffee, pineapples, avocados, and vanilla beans as well. And so they've been taking some steps in this direction. Again, based on what he has said about tariffs, doesn't make sense to do this at all, since they shouldn't raise the price for you. But obviously, as we've been telling you from the very beginning, before the tariffs even happened, that isn't actually true. He was lying to you, and he seems to be admitting that in this case. But interestingly, and maybe this gets to your point about the collapse of the entire tariff scheme, he'd been using some of these tariffs as attempted economic leverage to get a number of countries, dozens and dozens and dozens of countries, to do new trade deals with him. Again, remember, he said he was gonna get 90 trade deals in 90 days. He didn't get anything like that. He still needs a lot of trade deals, and this was one of the tools he was using to get it. If he's now willingly surrendering that, he's losing that leverage and perhaps giving up on getting those new trade deals at all.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So that's why I say surrender, because the people who made the trade deals with him, including all the way up to this week, have got to be totally regretting it now, because the people who didn't make the trade deals just got rewarded. They didn't have to give up anything in return, and the tariffs were reduced. So now that's devastating for his tariff policy, because if he reintroduces it, they're gonna say, oh, we're just gonna wait him out. Remember how he folded last time? He'll fold this time. And anyone who wants to do a deal with him will think, remember when we made a deal with him last time when we got burned?
Yeah.
Like we thought we were being the good guys and we were stepping up first and doing a deal with him, and we gave up a bunch of things in return. And then the guys who didn't give up anything in return wound up getting the same thing we did. So that's it. There goes his tariff policy.
Yeah.
And so why is he doing that and giving up on a thing that is his own personal agenda? This is the one thing he believes in, he brought to the table, right? Like none of his advisors, this is not a donor thing. This is a very, very rare thing where a politician actually has an idea. God help us, okay? And he did it like, again, tariffs can work. It just, he did it in a maniacal, chaotic way, way overcharging on the tariffs. It was comical level, way too broad, not targeted, etc. So he blew it up. If you like tariffs, targeted tariffs, now you're screwed, because this is gonna be such a nightmare. Nobody's ever gonna wanna go back to tariffs, right? So why did he do it? One, higher prices, obviously. And he tried to say, hey, I don't want anybody talking about affordability. And now he's beginning to realize he doesn't have the same bullying power that he had before. Before, if he said to Republicans, that's it, I don't want to talk about affordability, you're never gonna hear it on Fox News again, you're not gonna hear it on any media, you're not gonna hear any Republican politicians talking about it. But now that's not happening. People on right-wing media online are still talking about it. Marjorie Taylor Greene is saying, no, you're wrong, it is a problem. Yeah. And why? You can't avoid it. You can't lie your way out of the economy and prices, because people see it with their own eyes.
Yeah.
Maybe you get some folks to believe that folks were eating cats and dogs in Ohio because you're not in Ohio and you didn't see it with your own eyes, right? But you're not gonna get them to believe that the price of food is down when it's up, because they just bought it, right? So, but there's a second giant problem here, which is that our allies had started to reroute trade around us. So Latin America and Europe started making a lot more deals with China and other Asian countries, because they're like, well, we got to deal with this giant tariff in America, so why don't we sell our goods in other places? And so they started making trade alliances. And so people that are in the know in the government and among the markets, etc., were like, whoa, this is really dangerous. Now we're in bad territory here, because if they reroute them, they're not gonna bring it back. that could last 10, 20 years.
Yeah.
Right? So the horse is almost out of the barn. This is Trump kind of grabbing his tail at the end and getting dragged along like, don't talk about affordability.
Right? And that's kind of, I think, the same. You talked about two different things that have changed now. It's kind of the same problem. He's not as strong as he thinks he is. In terms of ability to wield the American economy as a blunt force weapon against our enemies and our allies, doesn't work that way. The world's more complex. It's more complex than your tiny little pea brain can understand. And you don't have the control over MAGA brains that you thought you did. So that includes some specific Republicans like Marjorie Greene and others, but honestly, I don't even think it really starts there. I think the reason they're braver now than they were is you don't have that control over regular people for a lot of the reasons that you broke down. You can keep telling people that gas is $2 a gallon. You can say that over and over again. They can see the price. Remember, they pump their own gas. Trump, you don't. You haven't in decades, but they actually have to do that. And so I said earlier in the show that I went on Truth Social and I saw something that gave me a little bit of hope. Donald Trump had his tweet about the affordability is a con job, it's all con, everything's down, energy's down. And I went into the replies, which is normally, it makes Twitter look reasonable, the True Social replies. It's just memes and all that stuff, and it's just nonsense and conspiracy theories. Almost all of the top replies were people saying, President Trump, it's not a con job. President Trump, I love you, I love MAGA, whatever, but like prices are higher, gas isn't lower. They all saw his lie and saw reality, and for once they acknowledged reality, which they have been so loath to do for a decade now. And maybe it's just in this area that he's losing that power, but maybe not. This feels like with the election results, with Epstein, this feels like the beginning of the process that makes him a lame duck. That's what it feels like to me. If he can't control the base, if he can't control our allies and our enemies, and if he can't even control Republicans in Congress anymore, then I don't know. I feel like his power is actually slipping.
Well, not only that, John, but he just gave up on his signature economic policy. So it doesn't get any more power slipping away than that. To your point about gas prices, this isn't being talked about enough, including on this show. The other day he was talking and he's like, I don't know why we don't have voter ID. You go to the gas station, you need ID. You go to the grocery store, you need ID. No, you don't. That brother hasn't pumped gas in maybe literally ever, but 70s? Certainly not in like 40 years. He hasn't gone to the grocery store. He doesn't know anything. He's so elite, right? Pretending to be a populist. And he's like, what do the regular people do? You have to show your driver's license to the gas man, right?
What could a banana cost, $10?
And then lastly, so he didn't expect the prices would go up when he put like 109% tariff, a 39%, a 49% tariff. How could you not expect that? How are you surprised by that? Oh my God, prices are up. Oh my God, people hate it when that was the #1 issue I ran on. Oh my God, we lost every election in this cycle because people can't afford things. Golly gee, I wish somebody would have told me that putting 49% extra on a product cost would raise prices. Of course it's gonna raise prices. Literally everyone but Trump knew that. And so this is reality catching up with him. And it's tough.
Yeah. Well, we'll see if this saves him in the midterms.
Yeah, well, he is at least backpedaling.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that's good, yeah. All right, guys, we got a lot more coming up for you guys, including JD Vance now taking on the role of chief liar. It's a fascinating set of lies that he tells. And we've got now Trump flat out saying, I want the Justice Department to be political and I want him to take out Democrats. So that is amazing. We'll do that when we return.
The word grocery, but it sort of means like everything you eat.
Our audience has given us everything, so we couldn't be more connected. When we first started, people would start giving us directions and say, okay, the mics are too large, move them, turn them into lav mics. I mean, they were incredible. And then one guy walked in and gave us a really expensive switcher and said, you guys need this, and walked out. Okay, it's amazing. They helped us build a studio. They did a $2 million funding campaign for us. And so they really are us. We do this show together to the point where some of our hosts are even former listeners. So when we say that the audience is part of TYT, we really mean it.
I think what the audience also appreciates is especially if they're members, they really get an inside look into who we are, our personal lives, what drives and motivates us. It goes beyond just storytelling. I think that what we do is allow our viewers and our listeners into our daily lives, and we give them kind of like this inside look into everything that we're passionate about and why it is that we're doing what we're doing, right? Like the motivation behind what we're doing, I think is important for our audience to know, and we're not shy about sharing that with them. And it's different from what people typically see in legacy media outlets where everything is kind of dry and robotic and there's really no personality or authenticity that comes along with it. Oftentimes when we're doing the show, I don't really think of it as me telling them stories. I think of it as us having a mutual respect and conversation with one another. And as I said earlier, I mean, not only do I feel that through the work I do, I'm informing our audience, but they inform me oftentimes as well. You know, they'll pitch stories to us. They'll tell us, you know, a certain perspective or angle to a story that we might have missed. And I love it.
You're about to watch some behind the scenes footage of the Young Turks. Ooh. Now these are partial videos. If you want to get all of them, you become a member, go to tyt.com/join, and you'll get all the behind the scenes of me, Anna, John, JR, a little bit reality show like, tyt.com/join, and enjoy this. You know what you're seeing behind me? Jersey, hold. Watch me flip this camera. However I flip it. Do I flip it like this? No, I just took a picture. I'm bitzing right now.
What?
Behind the scenes.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
For members? I don't have my face on.
She doesn't have her face on, folks. Oh, that's JR's ass right there.
You can't take 5 minutes off, can you?
No, I can't, Johnny. Bye. I said it was live stream, but I was lying. It's not a live stream. It's just for members. Bitsy, this is my cat. You know what his name is? Kiki Cat. Animals are innocent. Control room and the insanity is obviously there.
Right now, as you can see, I'm directing or tech directing.
I'm so happy to be here.
This is what like a Labor Day beard looks like for Cenk. Man, you're a Young Turks viewer if you recognize me like this.
Such a big fan.
Oh, thank you. You are the one person in my life I would love to meet.
What's going on, guys? This is a Bitsy or a BTS or behind the scenes with Hassan Piker, aka Woke Bay.
Oh, hi, I didn't see you there.
I have finished my show, The Damage Report, and now I get into a really awkward time of the day.
When I'm sitting, the control room is right there. So I can see Bart.
And this is the Pittsburgh office, by the way. I'll refer to often as the boiler room.
You see how it's ripped? Is it super unprofessional to wear that at a business meeting? Or am I like cool, rebel?
I just finished doing the power panel and I'm fired up.
What do you do for TYT?
Not a whole lot.
If you're frantically tweeting at us that something's broken, thank you, because I'm fixing it.
And thank you for being a TYT member.
Super last thing, because there's always got to be a super last thing. Oh, that was disastrous. This has been behind the scenes, behind the scenes.
Al Qaeda.
All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Jordan Yule with you guys. Good to see you, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Happy the weekend is almost here.
Here, here, brother. We also have Shaitan Dadan. It's a fascinating name that just joined on YouTube. And they have an interesting request of us, which I will read to you later. That's be a fun topic. For now, before we get on to the rest of the news, including Donald Trump's attack on Democrats regarding Epstein, I want to tell you about Noble Mobile. They're our new partner in providing you guys cell phone service. I switched, super easy, same phone, same line, same contacts. You don't change anything except just go online and switch. Go.tyt.com/switch. So why do you want to switch? It's $50 a month. If you're paying more than $50 a month, it's literally the same exact thing. There's no need to. And on top of that, they give you cash back every month if you don't max out your data. So if you use less data, not only is it $50, they give you cash back on top. So it's a great deal. There's no reason not to do it. We love those guys. Go.tyt.com/switch. I did it myself and I love it. Go.tyt.com/switch. Save yourself some money. All right, Jordan, what's next?
Well, Cenk, in a desperate effort to divert attention away from his own relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, President Donald Trump announced that he's directing Pam Bondi and the DOJ to investigate Democrats' connections to the disgraced financier. Cenk, what are your 2 cents? Who do you expect they'll go after?
Well, I assume it's no one because he said it was a hoax. So I'm sure that, wait, how could it be a hoax, but you're going after the Democrats who actually did it? Fascinating, we'll come back to that. But guys, in all seriousness, this is a terrible development. This is the saying, no, that's it. We're now in the United States of America, we're targeting political enemies and saying, prosecute them. Also, do not prosecute the guilty if they're in my party. That is as un-American as it gets. So let's give you the details.
Right, so as we've covered on the show, Trump was mentioned numerous times in those Epstein emails that were released earlier this week by the House Oversight Committee. In those messages, Epstein claimed Trump knew about the girls, said he had information that could take Trump down, said Trump spent hours with one of Epstein's victims at his house, and described him as, quote, dirty and dangerous. But Trump claims it's not him who we should be investigating. It's all the other people Epstein associated with. He posted on Truth Social earlier today, now that the Democrats are using the Epstein hoax involving Democrats, not Republicans, to try and deflect from their disastrous shutdown and all of their other failures, I will be asking Attorney General Pam Bondi and the Department of Justice, together with our great patriots at the FBI, to investigate Jeffrey Epstein's involvement and relationship with Bill Clinton, Larry Summers, Reid Hoffman, JP Morgan, Chase, and many other people and institutions to determine what was going on with them and him. This is another Russia scam, with all arrows pointing to the Democrats. Records show that these men and many others spent large portions of their life with Epstein and on his island. Stay tuned. That came after yet another Truth Social post this morning in which Trump wrote, ask Bill Clinton, Reid Hoffman, and Larry Summers about Epstein. They know all about him. Don't waste your time with Trump. I have a country to run. Now, he is very obviously trying to deflect from his own relationship with Epstein, but he's not wrong that powerful Democrats, businessmen, and banks were also tied to the sex pest. Clinton flew on Epstein's private jet several times and visited his New York apartment before his 2008 conviction for soliciting a minor. Ghislaine Maxwell also attended Chelsea Clinton's wedding in 2010. However, the emails also show Epstein saying Clinton had never been to his private island, despite Trump's claims to the contrary. Now, as Anna covered extensively yesterday, former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers corresponded a ton with Epstein until shortly before he was arrested in 2019. They talked about women, politics, and projects led by Summers' wife that Epstein provided funding for. Reid Hoffman, co-founder of LinkedIn, visited Epstein's island in 2014. And in 2015, he invited Epstein to a dinner in Palo Alto with tech oligarchs like Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, and Peter Thiel. In 2019, when his connections to Epstein were revealed, he said, I helped to repair his reputation and perpetrate injustice. For this, I am deeply regretful. And as for those banks, JP Morgan paid $290 million in 2023 to some of Epstein's victims to settle accusations that it had turned a blind eye to his sex trafficking. The deal followed embarrassing disclosures that JP Morgan ignored internal warnings and overlooked red flags about Epstein because he had been a valuable client. The bank did not admit wrongdoing in the settlement. So there are real connections here, certainly worth more investigation, but Trump's motivation for ordering the DOJ to only look into people he doesn't like couldn't be more obvious. And now Pam Bondi has announced that she will, in fact, begin this investigation. In response to Trump's Truth Social post, she wrote, "Thank you, Mr. President. SDNY U.S. Attorney Jay Clayton is one of the most capable and trusted prosecutors in the country. And I've asked him to take the lead. As with all matters, the department will pursue this with urgency and integrity to deliver answers to the American people." Cenk, integrity, is that a word you would use to describe what's happening here?
No, not at all. So a couple of things here. First, he says, well, we remember that Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein, et cetera, all these people hanging around with the Clintons, they were even at the Clinton wedding. You know who else was at the Clinton wedding? Oh, right, Donald Trump. So what does that prove? Then he says, okay, yes, we're all at the same events 100 times. In fact, Trump way better friends with Epstein. Trump says, I know Epstein likes the girls young, et cetera, et cetera. But he says, I don't want you to investigate me. I want you to investigate only Democrats. And not only just only Democrats, but also no other Republican. None of our donors, not me, not anybody else who might be on the right. Only investigate the other side. Well, it doesn't get any more politicized than that. And so, look, a lot of people use that word, overuse that word so much. You're politicizing this issue. Yeah, all these issues are political. So that's a way of kind of evading the question a lot of times. But in this case, the Justice Department is not supposed to be politicized. It's supposed to be fair to everyone. Oh, if there's a crime, we go investigate it. Not, hey, go look for a crime on this guy I don't like because he's my political opponent. But also, and maybe even more importantly, do not look for a crime if they're in the right political party. Then you can let them get away with any crime. They could be a predator, they could target our children, but you are not allowed to investigate them. Nah, that's devastating. That's totally un-American. And so you can't have this. So look, MAGA's starting to have a lot of independence from Trump, right? And a lot of Trump voters aren't MAGA anyway, they're independents. And a lot of those guys are now, this is not 2016. In 2016, if Trump, through 2020, if Trump said something, his voters believed it 100%. Now that's breaking down. Now, do some of his voters believe it, and will they defend anything he says? Yeah, of course. There's still a sizable chunk out there on the right that go, oh yeah, of course. No, you should only investigate Democrats, but you should let the Republicans do whatever they want. And if they want to rape kids, that's totally fine, as long as they're Republicans. Totally fine, right? But wait, aren't you guys the ones that said we should investigate Epstein the most? Yeah, I know, but not the Republicans because they're my friends, so I don't mind if they're sexual predators, right? Does that exist? Yes, it does. Is that a majority of Trump voters? I don't think so. I think that, and remember, that's just half the country. The other half is totally against this. Obviously, Democrats, independents that didn't vote for Trump are like, what is this? You're gonna only investigate the other side, but not your own party and not yourself? That's ridiculous, right? And then you add on top a giant chunk of Trump voters now going, no, brother, no, that's not how it works. No, does MAGA guys mind investigating Larry Summers or Bill Clinton? No, of course they don't mind, right? But do they mind not investigating Republicans who might have done it? I think a lot of them mind. Those are the voters. I'm not talking about the politicians. The politicians don't want to investigate anyone because they're the ones who are oftentimes the guilty party. And if it's not them directly, it's their donors that they're protecting. Me, I don't care about protecting any of these guys. Investigate them all. Well, I want to know who did it. That's it, period. That's not complicated. Now, one more thing, Jordan. He says it's a hoax, but now I guess it's half a hoax because the people who did it who were Democrats are real. the people who did it who are Republicans are a hoax apparently, okay? But if it's a hoax, why did JP Morgan Chase, which is rather fond of its money, it's not like banks like to give their money away, pay $290 million in a settlement to the victims if it ain't real? No, it's definitely real. No part of it is a hoax. And Trump continues to protect himself, his allies, including potentially foreign governments, and now wants to make this political and target. And by the way, super last thing on it, Jordan, but this one's also important, and I don't want people, especially on the right, to miss this. Guys, when you do it this way, if let's pick a name out of the hat, Larry Summers. Let's say that it turns out Larry Summers did do it. He actually violated the law and he was with the girls. We don't know yet, but let's say he did it, okay? Now his lawyers are gonna get to say, Your Honor, the president said to target Democrats and not Republicans. So obviously this is a political witch hunt. And that is going to be super compelling and will ironically protect Larry Summers, Bill Clinton, and all those guys. How does that help anyone? No, he just blew the case against all the Democrats if they were ever going to be charged on Epstein, but I guess we shouldn't worry too much about it because no one's ever going to be charged on Epstein because they're all guilty and they're all going to cover for each other till the cows come home.
Yeah, well, there's a few things here that I'm focused on. I mean, one, this is a core threat to our democracy. Like that's what it boils down to. Beyond everything at the surface, he's weaponizing the Justice Department to zero in and target his political enemies. And it's not just here. This is just another example of it. You've seen them go after Letitia James and James Comey. And while we don't maybe care for John Bolton, there's another instance there. But this is something that is so brazen because it's also something that he is implicated in. I mean, you look at the language in this Truth Social post. People who have known, these Democrats knew Epstein for years. Brother, so did you. And we have it in writing. We have pictures of you back in the 90s and then emails about your relationship way past when you said you cut him off. I mean, this is absurd. And if there was some sort of analogous situation, or there was some incident with like your kids at school and there was like a fight or something and your kid comes home, it's like, yeah, everyone was involved except for me. You wouldn't believe them. Like it's like a child trying to lie their way out of a situation, but this guy's the president. I mean, I don't care about Bill Clinton. I don't care about Larry Summers. I'm not gonna die on that hill. And I would encourage Republicans who are tempted to just take this bait. Oh yeah, finally Bill Clinton's gonna go down. Okay, great, sure, I don't care. But also apply that same standard to people within your party. And there's still a lot of pressure that we need to put on Congress because these are just the emails. These aren't the actual files. You and I had talked earlier this week why we think they might be hiding these files because there's a possibility it might reveal foreign influence. It might reveal a certain country's intelligence agency as being somewhat involved, but we still need to release those files so we have total transparency here. A few friends put together a site, releasethefilesnow.org. Super easy. You can call your member of Congress, you can sign a petition, and you can also see how your member in the House voted on the discharge petition. Everyone's on the record in the House now. How did your member of Congress vote on it? Releasethefilesnow.org.
Yeah, I'm going to give the last word to a couple of members here. Meowsers Clause to Establish Me Out. Fun handle on TYT.com writes in, I thought Bondi already investigated everything and found no evidence of any wrongdoing by anyone else. She wasn't lying, was she? That's a great point. Thank you for pointing that out. Like, not only did Trump say that it was a hoax, Pam Bondi said she already did the investigation and that no one would be charged because no one else did anything. So now all of a sudden we're gonna say, wait a minute. I meant to target my political enemies, so I retract that. I now say Bill Clinton, Larry Summers, etc. did it. Like, this is so over the top that even the most loyal Trump voters have got to be struggling with this. But the most important part is what Jordan and Virginia are pointing to. Virginia and South Carolina wrote in, the scale of justice only works when it does investigate both sides. And so this is an obvious injustice. This is obviously not justice for all, right? So the threat against and the attack against democracy is even more important than the Epstein story itself. We can't have this, otherwise we're gonna lose the country. So thank you for making those brilliant points. I love our members. You could join them and be part of the show at tyt.com/join. Jordan, are we taking a break?
We are taking a break.
All right, we'll come right back. Oh, by the way, a little bit later in the show at 8 o'clock, Andrew Yang's gonna join us and talk about an independent party. Is that the right way to go? And when we come back, Megyn Kelly says, was Epstein a pedophile? One of our stalwart members asked for this, so we wanted to deliver it for them. They wrote in, my mom, Patricia, is a huge fan of TYT and has been watching for years. Today is her 75th birthday. It would mean the world to me if she could get a birthday shout out. Thanks so much. Patricia, happy birthday. Da, 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 da. We love you, Patricia. Thank you for being a huge fan of the show, and we appreciate you. Look at your kids looking out for you. Okay, that's beautiful. All right, so now we go from that lovely thing to a thing that's not as lovely. Shaitan Dadan asked, and then they just joined and they asked on Super Chat, Cenk, can you or Anna please invite Nick Fuentes? We must defeat the Israel lobby in both parties to restore liberty and end genocides abroad. Look, if all Fuentes was doing was fighting the Israeli lobby, you know me, I'd be in. And I think that's basically what Tucker's doing and what Candace Owens largely doing. And Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tom Massey, and I give them a world of credit, right? And I defend them against charges of anti-Semitism. Candace, again, is a little borderline, but Fuentes, no, that's not all he's doing. He's also saying other terrible things. And so, I mean, look, he's not hiding it, right? So that interview might not go as you suspect. So be careful what you wish for. Anyways, that's for another day, not today. But I appreciate you joining. I appreciate you, asking for it. It is what it is. Everybody's got a right to an opinion. Shanna says, Cenk, that's my take too. There's now a YouTube member. Israel has the right to exist because they do. Yeah, they already exist. What are we gonna do? Get rid of Israel? That's crazy talk, right? No, Israel just, please, for God's sake, go back to your 1967 borders and we're done with this thing. This is super obvious what the peace solution is. Israel just doesn't want peace, period. It's not even close. Honestly, at this point, based on the voting patterns, their citizens don't want peace. Their government definitely doesn't want peace. Peace is super easy. 1967 borders, no right of return. We're done with it, okay? But there is no question that the government of Israel doesn't want peace at all. They want land, and they just took half of Gaza. So that's not complicated. Anyone saying otherwise is doing propaganda on behalf of Israel, period. Nani Dragon says, John is pretty funny, but stop calling dumb people donkeys. Donkeys are actually smart and loyal, LOL. I like that we have people even defending donkeys on the show. Okay, Mia Frighten, just tuned in. Good to see John again. That was in the first hour. Robbie David said we need to help progressives into small offices. Robbie, I talked to a progressive just yesterday that won a city council seat, and I said he was the youngest person in the whole country. He was 18 years old when he won the city council seat. It was in upstate New York. I said, how'd you do it? And he said, I knocked on every single door. You can win smaller offices just by outworking people. Okay, you can't do it for Congress, you can't do it for larger offices, but for small offices, you're gonna win them totally. You just gotta go knock on all the doors. So you're right. All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Jordan with you guys. Next story.
Take a look at this.
There's a difference between a 15-year-old and a 5-year-old. You know, it's just whatever. It's sick. Every time we start talking about Epstein, it makes your skin crawl. You right? The whole thing is just disgusting.
Totally.
After additional documents and emails pertaining to Jeffrey Epstein were released earlier this week, Megyn Kelly seemed to question whether or not Jeffrey Epstein was actually a pedophile. Now, Cenk, correct me if I'm wrong, but a 15-year-old is still a child, is that right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, yeah. Of course, the real question here, Jordan, is why is she making this defense? Because it is curious. And yeah, I've got a thought on why she might want to say, maybe not a pedophile. Maybe we're misreading Epstein. Really, Megyn? Okay.
Well, while speaking to Batya Ungar-Sargon, host of Batya on News Nation on Wednesday, Kelly brought up a friend she has who is, quote, very close to the Epstein case. And despite them knowing, quote, virtually everything on the case, they didn't believe he was a pedophile. Take a look.
Jeffrey Epstein, in this person's view, was not a pedophile. This is this person's view, who was there for a lot of this, but that he was into the barely legal type. Like he liked 15-year-old girls. And I realize this is disgusting. I'm definitely not trying to make an excuse for this. I'm just giving you facts. That he wasn't into like 8-year-olds, but he liked the very young teen types that could pass for even younger than they were, but would look legal to a passerby.
Now, keep in mind the minimum age of consent in the United States is 16, so 15 isn't considered barely legal, it's just illegal. But Kelly continued and began questioning things even more. Take a look.
That is what I believed, and that was what I reliably was told for many years. And it wasn't until we heard from Pam Bondi that they had tens of thousands of videos of alleged, forgive me, they used to call it kiddie porn, now they call it child sexual abuse material, on his computer, that for the first time I thought, oh no, he was an actual pedophile. I mean, only a pedophile gets off on young children abuse videos. She's never clarified it. I don't know whether it's true. I have to be honest.
Again, still talking about minors, but there's more.
I don't know what's true about him, but we have yet to see anybody come forward and say, I was I was under 10, I was under 14 when I first came within his purview. Look, you can say that's a distinction without a difference.
No, it's not.
I think there is a difference.
Yeah.
There's a difference between a 15-year-old and a 5-year-old. You know, it's just whatever, it's sick.
Now, Kelly's comments were shocking to several people. Adam Kinzinger simply posted, Megyn R. Kelly. There were also more visceral responses. Activist Shannon Watts posted to X, Megyn Kelly trying to convince her listeners that sex trafficking girls is less offensive if they've gone through puberty. There's a difference between a 15-year-old and a 5-year-old. Megyn Kelly is using her platform and power to portray Epstein and Trump as horny men as opposed to sexual predators or pedophiles. Democratic strategist Ali Samarco posted, this is career ending for Megyn Kelly. 15-year-olds are children. They can't drive, they can't see rated R movies, but disgusting 50-year-old men should be allowed to rape them? Goodbye forever. Now, Megyn Kelly's show on NBC was canceled back in 2018 after she defended blackface on air, so it's unclear whether or not SiriusXM will take similar action. neither Sirius XM or Kelly have made statements on that matter. Cenk, what do you make of this?
Yeah, I was, I didn't get the Meghan R. Kelly joke, I have to confess. When Veta Dulcet, one of our members, wrote it in, I was like, oh, is her middle name R? And then I was like, oh, when you put up the Kinzinger thing. So Vita, who's our member, you're awesome. Okay, I don't want to give you credit for that joke. Okay, now on to serious stuff. Guys, look, I got a theory on this. Now, I always tell you guys, here's facts, right? Here's speculation, and it's an educated guess based on all the different contexts, right? So this is one of those things. This is an educated guess, not a quote unquote fact, okay? I couldn't be any clearer. So Megyn Kelly's been taking a lot of heat for not canceling Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens. And I just saw a segment she did today where she's very mad at Mark Levin for going over the top and calling everybody Nazis, etc. But she's like, no, but my Jewish friends say that that Tucker's wrong, and Mark could have a good point if he wasn't doing it in this terrible way, and etc. And so she feels stuck. She's constantly saying on air, I like Tucker, I don't want to cancel these people, but I'm getting a ton of pressure from the presumably the Israeli side saying pressure, cancel, cancel, cancel. So now all of a sudden, in the midst of that pressure, she hears from her friends that Epstein wasn't so bad, that maybe it was just 15-year-olds. Now, at the same time, we're seeing the drop site news exposés, the bombshells saying Epstein talking to former Prime Minister Ehud Barak of Israel, and talking about how they're going to strategize to get America to bomb Syria, get America to bomb Iran, setting up meetings with Putin and Barak, etc. So clearly Epstein is trying to help Israel. Mainstream media is, so that's a fact. That's in the fact category, and mainstream media is hiding that fact. You can go read it on Drop Site News. There are emails from Ehud Barak and others. It's absolutely clear, right? So now that things are beginning to be revealed as to who was behind Epstein, all of a sudden, there's propaganda in American media. Well, was Epstein so bad? Was he so bad? I mean, if you find out that maybe it was us, remember, he wasn't so bad. It was just 15-year-olds, and maybe 14, maybe this, maybe that. But hey, no one that was 8 years old. That is a curious strategy. And look, Batya, I like her, as personally, etc. We've been down debates, we've been on the same side, different sides, etc. But Batya is, of course, very pro-Israel. And so Megyn Kelly goes, maybe he wasn't a pedophile. She's like, tell me more. And then she says, oh, you're right. I mean, I see what you're saying. That defense of Epstein's pretty good. Now, look, you heard all the caveats too. I don't want to hide the caveats. We showed you the caveats that Megyn Kelly gave, and Batya joined her in the caveats as well. But guys, just think about it this way. And Jordan, look, even if you believe this organically, like it popped into your head, maybe I should do a segment about how Epstein's not that bad. Why would you say it on air? Like, why now, in the midst of the Epstein mania, do you come out with a defense of Epstein? That is a curious thing to do. So even if you think it's only half a defense of Epstein, super curious.
Yeah, it's very bizarre. I mean, there's a couple ways of looking at it. I'm with you on the Israel ties. I also think that she might see the writing on the wall. I mean, the 20,000 documents released by the Republicans on the Oversight Committee weren't flattering for Trump. It gave them more names and more context to run with. And I was curious why they did that. And now we see today why. So they can handpick a few Democratic names or liberal donors or financiers that they can use to divert attention. But Trump is still in there extensively, and it's bad. And I think she recognizes, look, eventually this is going to come back around, and she's playing the long game. In addition to the Israeli angle, I think she's just trying to downplay the severity, while still create a caveat like, oh, it makes your skin crawl, but it's not that bad, guys. Let's calm down. Like, come on. I think she's trying to create some sort of plausible deniability for Trump's involvement based on what I think she knows but can't admit, because that's not her role in the right-wing media ecosystem. She's going to defend him. She's going to defend Israel, and she's going to play the MAGA game. So she has to just kind of like find some sort of triangulation where she can cover for him while still admitting it's bad, certainly when it extends to Democrats, and, cover her a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, that word right there, not the A word. And I think you could say ass. Triangulation.
I wasn't sure.
Yeah. No, this felt like triangulation 101, right? Now, look, if it's the Democrats, it's the worst thing in the world. But if it turns out it's the Republicans or Israel, not so bad, right? So that was a little brazen. But you know what? Good news, guys. It didn't work. Big blowback. Nobody's buying it. And they're like, Megyn, what the hell were you thinking? And Megyn's a character that's very well liked on the right. And even the right didn't react well to this. They're like, no, it's a big deal. And this is weird. Yep. All right, we're gonna take a break. Yep. All right, guys. When we come back, we're gonna defend Megyn Kelly against a different crazy thing that happened, because we're the fairest show in America. We'll see you in a sec.
Do you view Vice President J.D. Vance as your successor?
No.
So let's go to Super Chat first. Dragon with multiple personas writes, and Cenk, do you have thoughts on Pete Skandalakis appointing himself as a prosecutor for the Fulton County Trump case in Georgia? It's a worrying precedent for a president to serve while in jail. There's a twist, and I'm curious what will happen next. So I read that because I thought it was a good question. I'm gonna look into it more, and I'll tell you on a different show. Thanks for being curious, and thanks for writing in and asking. So I'll get back to you on that answer. Ahab Elswizy says, in the YouTube member section, yes. An independent party is a great start, please. As many parties as we can so we can stop blindly voting blue or red. Only thing worse than two parties is one party. Well, we do have a uniparty, so it's a fair point. Andrew Yang's gonna join us in about 20 minutes in studio here, talk about independent party. His party is the Forward Party, and he's got a new book coming out, ACGC, where he, of course, is going to talk about independent parties. ACGC writes in, or with a quote from Justice Hugo Black, the job of the press is to serve the governed, not the governors. Well, I wish they would teach him that, because in the national media, I don't see that at all. All I see is mainstream media kissing the ass of the powerful 24/7. On Twitch, Canadian Skull Dragon said, now if I had access to Too Strong coffee, I'd buy that like I buy creamer. Okay, thank you for the plug for Too Strong coffee. There's rumors about that Too Strong might make a comeback, and that comeback might be Too Strong. In fact, Rui Raul gets in on the action and says, it's actually a tasty coffee, but I can only make 1 cup of it a day. Otherwise, I can't sleep later, LOL. I mean, we did call it Too Strong coffee. Okay, so we're very low on stock. You guys basically bought it out, but I'll let you know if it comes back. We appreciate you guys loving it. Okay, Pessimistic Progressive writes in on TYT.com. Serious question, did anyone actually argue they were as young as 8 or 5? I thought it was well known that they were all 13 to 15, and that's disgusting enough. Yeah, I don't remember anybody saying 5 or 8, and so it's like that's another reason why it was a weird defense. And by the way, you might want it to be, if you're Epstein and whoever's behind Epstein, to be 15-year-olds or 17-year-olds or whatever, so that a schmuck like Trump could think, you could tell him, oh, it's a 22-year-old, and then he goes and does it, and then they go, hey, you're on tape, and she was actually 16. And then he's like, oh, God damn it, right? Now you got him. right? So who knows? But it was a giant effort to get these guys on tape. So they might have done it for that reason as well. Virginia, South Carolina makes another good point. A lot of the victims will tell you it never started at 15. This behavior is predatory and they always look for the most vulnerable. And so for a lot of them, they were, some of them became victimized by Epstein and Maxwell first. Some of them had been victimized when they were much younger, and then it just followed a pattern. And the predators can sense that, and they look for people who are vulnerable and they attack them. It's just sick in so many different ways. And Art Guy says, gotta admit, I'm a little disappointed when Jordan backslides into hat wearing. Back on TYT, Cenk and Jordan. Art Guy, one of our members on TYT.com, is trying to get hashtag free the hair going, saying Jordan can't be backsliding into hats. Oh, there you go. Ask and you shall receive. Is there anything we wouldn't do for our members? All right, there's one thing we're definitely gonna do for our members, which is the next story.
The right-wing civil war got even messier last night when the Babylon Bee, a conservative satire site, wrote a joke about Megyn Kelly getting assassinated by the Israeli government. Cenk, you saw it. What do you make of it?
Oh boy, is it a joke or is it a threat? Well, conservatives are kind of split on whether it's a joke or a threat. Let's give you all the details, and then Jordan and I will give you our opinion.
So last night, the Babylon Bee posted the following article. Megyn Kelly gets rid of old pager just to be safe. Now that's a reference to the pager attack in Lebanon. The IDF crippled Hezbollah by booby-trapping their pagers with explosives on September 17th, 2024. The Israeli government set those explosives off. Over 3,000 people were injured. 12 people died. 2 of them were children. 1 day later, rigged walkie-talkies exploded elsewhere in Lebanon. 25 people died and over 600 were injured in that attack. Most, but not all, of the casualties and injuries were members of Hezbollah. As for Megyn Kelly, she has repeatedly stated that she is a supporter of Israel, but she has also refused to denounce Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens. That has made her an enemy of what we will colloquially call or refer to as the Ben Shapiro wing of the conservative movement, which includes Mark Levin and Seth Dillon, the CEO of the Babylon Bee. Now, speaking of, here are some excerpts from that Bee article about Israel murdering Megyn Kelly. Political commentator Megyn Kelly quietly tossed her pager in the trash this week in what her team described as an abundance of caution. After being drawn into controversy online as part of the ongoing debate within the political right over the US's relationship with the nation of Israel, Kelly thought twice about continuing to carry her pager with her everywhere. It's tough to give it up after so many years, Kelly said. You can never be too safe these days. From what I've seen, being opposed to Israel and carrying a pager can be a dangerous combination. Plus, it's 2025, so pagers don't really serve a purpose. A publishing time, the garbage container outside Kelly's studio had been destroyed in a mysterious explosion. Again, Kelly has stated over and over again that she supports Israel, and she was clearly alarmed by the article, responding simply, WTF, Seth Dillon. And as you can see, the Babylon Bee deleted that article. Neither the Babylon Bee nor Dillon himself have addressed the matter, but we think Megyn Kelly is being too sensitive about this. She's making a mountain out of a molehill just so she can play the victim. So we're telling her to cut out the drama. Actually, that's what Megyn Kelly said about Mehdi Hassan last year when someone made the joke to him on air, the joke. Hassan was on a CNN panel when guest Ryan Gerdusky said to him, I hope your beeper doesn't go off. CNN announced they would not invite Gerdusky back on the show. But Kelly thought the ban was unreasonable. And so she invited Gerdusky onto her show when she said this.
Mehdi Hassan leaned so far into playing the victim. He reminded me of those World Cup soccer players. It was over the top. He deserves an Academy Award for did you just say you want me dead? You just said you want me to be killed? How do we get from that to, I hope you die? Like, I want you to be blown up tomorrow. That was him trying to cause trouble for you.
Oops. Cenk?
Yeah, so that seems to be an obvious piece of hypocrisy, right? And it largely is. It's 85% hypocrisy, but fair is show in America, a 15% I'll give to, yeah, but at that point, Charlie Kirk hadn't been murdered. Things got a little bit more serious after Charlie Kirk got murdered. Now, of course, that wouldn't be relevant if it's Tyler Robinson who murdered him, because that's just a random left-winger. Now, on the other hand, if it was that same government, then all of a sudden people will go, whoa, 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 whoa. Now the pager jokes are not funny. Right now, I'm not saying that it was that government. I don't know any evidence that it was. Okay, but Megyn Kelly's reaction has all of a sudden changed. Maybe because she thinks, who cares if Mehdi Hassan is killed, but me, oh, that's really important. That's probably what it is. Or maybe she thinks, oh, those threats and those jokes are a little bit more real than I suspected. Right. So I don't know which one it is, but those are the two possibilities. For me, Jordan. You read the Babylon Bee, the rest of the joke, not just the headline. None of it was remotely funny. Like, okay, I can imagine pager jokes that are funny. If Bill Burr made one or Dave Chappelle made one, I say, okay, I get it. It's just, so what? It's not the end of the world. It's a pager joke, right? Yeah, I get it. They're comedians, but this wasn't at all funny, and the whole pager thing is crazy. I mean, so look, them blowing up the Hezbollah guys is already and the kids nearby, but that's Israel 101, right? But when Netanyahu came and gave a golden pager to Donald Trump, gave a pager to John Fetterman, it's creepy, man. I mean, what a weird thing to give someone, right? Oh, this is what we use to blow up our enemies. Here, take one, okay? So yeah, people are a little unnerved by the Israeli pagers, and this is important context. Babylon Bee is very pro-Israel, okay? So for them, so if it's like that's why I mean like Bill Burr and Chappelle are randos, right? But when a pro-Israel satire site all of a sudden is like, we'd like to give you a pager, and you're like, I don't know, less funny, okay? But I think the conservative reaction is actually super interesting. So let's go to that short.
Sure. So we've got a couple responses from some right wingers. We've got Tim Pool, who said, I assume they deleted it because it's more offensive to Israel than to Megyn Kelly. The joke implies Israel assassinates Americans for criticizing them. And then let's go to 8, Mike Cernovich. College kids joking about Hitler, we were told, is a crisis. Get the president to disavow. Adult men in their 40s discussing the murder of Megyn Kelly. That's just a joke. Lighten up. When they do it, it's okay. Textbook woke tactics.
Yeah, I don't know. It feels like they're split on it. And like, hey, this isn't cool. Seems to be the vibe. What do you make of it?
I hope they all lose. Like, I don't have any sympathy for any of these people. I mean, like Candace Owens is somebody who just like said Hitler had good ideas. I don't trust her. I don't want to validate her. She was in there. I skipped over it. Tim Pool is somebody who has been weaponizing bigotry and hate for an audience for years. Mike Cernovich pushed Pizzagate, which led to a shooting at Comet Ping Pong. And Megyn Kelly is somebody who has had years of racist comments, defending blackface, just vitriol. Seth Dillon, the Babylon Bee, like you said, it's not funny. Like this joke isn't funny. That site isn't funny. It's like just recycled, just worn out jokes about trans people. I'm rooting for everybody involved here to lose. But on your point about the pagers, yeah, it's offensive when you say it to Mehdi Hassan. He's not even from Lebanon. Like it's not only offensive, it's racist. Like the guy isn't from there. You just think all brown Middle Eastern people are Hezbollah and from Lebanon. Like just it's absurd. But they're doing it because they're trying to use militarism and essentially Israel's terrorism as a cudgel in a debate because he couldn't win on the merits. So he had to resort to something like that when it happened on CNN. They're upset that she's not condemning Tucker Carlson. Well, guess what? This war criminal government will kill you. It's despicable any way you look at it.
Yeah, last thing for me is, look, I think the reason why the conservative reaction is relevant is because they're usually the guys who go, it's a joke, what's the big deal? Okay, you guys always make a big. Now when it's them and it's Israel talking about sending them pagers or a guy who's massively pro-Israel making that joke, they seem a little more disconcerted by it. And they should be, and it's good because that shows that, well, I think Israel's allies are making a mistake by now starting to try to attack and intimidate the right wing. I think that that's a significant mistake, and they're about to get huge blowback, is my sense of it. And so that's part of this story. I hear you that you don't like any of those people, but and I know that you agree, even if we don't like them, if it's not a joke and it's a threat, that's not cool no matter who you do it to.
Yeah. Well, let's get into our last story, starting with this.
There's another component of this, Sean, which to me is maybe the most important because I care so much about our young people being able to afford a good life. A lot of young people are saying housing is way too expensive. Why is that? Because we flooded the country with 30 million illegal immigrants who are taking houses that ought by right go to American citizens. And at the same time, we weren't building enough new houses to begin with, even for the population that we had.
That was Vice President J.D. Vance lying on Sean Hannity's show last night, blaming immigrants for the cost of housing in the United States. So let's go through each part of his claim. First, the idea that there's an influx of immigrants leading to a dramatic rise in housing prices. Harvard University's Joint Center for Housing Studies actually looked at both sets of data and found that the cost of housing began to rise before a recent surge in immigration. So it's not immigrants driving up the cost of housing. Then he talks about housing supply, and he says new homes must be built. On that front, deporting millions of immigrants, as the Trump campaign is promising, this is from 2024, could actually worsen the housing shortage. Seamus Roller of the National Housing Law Project said, that's because 1 in 3 workers in the construction industry are immigrants. So deporting millions of them could cause major headwinds for builders. Now, J.D. Vance wants you to believe that the same day laborers who stand in Home Depot parking lots trying to find work just to get by are also the same people who are buying up homes and driving up the cost. But by rounding up and deporting immigrants, the administration is directly undercutting one key remedy for housing costs. But what's another component here? Because the one thing that J.D. Vance isn't talking about is private equity. He'd rather people look anywhere but up. So real estate investors, both individual and institutional, bought 1/3 of all single-family residential properties sold in the second quarter of 2025. It's an increase from 27% in the first quarter and the highest percentage in the last 5 years. Investors continue to own about 20% of the 86 million single-family homes in the country. Investors, largely driven by private equity firms like Blackstone, which has an ownership interest in at least 274,000 homes in the US, are making all-cash deals, outbidding actual families, and driving up the cost of housing for all of us. In 2003, MetLife Investment Management found that institutional investors may control 40% of US single-family rental homes by 2030. From the second quarter of 2020 to the second quarter of this year, the median sale price of a home in the US has jumped by nearly 30%. And you might think, oh, that was a different time. Okay, let's take the 5 years before that. From quarter 2, 2015 to quarter 2, 2020, the median price only grew 9.6%. So we've got a 30% increase since 2020, Cenk. Have wages increased by 30% since 2020?
Oh, no, they most certainly have not. So, guys, this is an old trick of Republican politicians. Whenever the bankers cause a massive problem, they come in and blame anyone else to try to distract you. It's a bag of squirrels. But usually, ironically, and honestly somewhat amusingly, if you think about it for a second, they love to blame poor people. In the 2008 crash, they're like, too many poor black people bought homes that they couldn't afford. It's black people's fault. No, it's absurd. It was collateralized debt obligations and risky derivatives by the bankers playing with trillions of dollars, over leveraged. The idea that it was the homeowner's fault was preposterous. And Fox News and Rush Limbaugh at the time said it over and over again. Now they're saying, no, it's not private equity that's driving up prices by 30%, even though Jordan just showed you definitively, it's definitely private equity. They're like, no, the guy who crossed the border a minute ago came with $280,000 and he bought up. Did he? If he has $280,000, why is he crossing the Rio Grande? Okay, no, it's absurd. Like, no, the immigrants that came in are coming in for opportunity. They don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars to buy up 20, 30% of the homes in America. No, he's trying to get you distracted. Why? Because those same private equity guys are his donors. JD Vance is a wholly invented robot of the donor class, Peter Thiel and the bankers. And so since the bankers are doing this, his job is to protect the bankers. Now, the guy who agrees with us on this is Charlie Kirk. So Charlie, our first agreement with him when he was at the RNC, we again talked about it at the DNC, again talked about it at America Fest when I went to go see him there and we did an event together. We all agreed it's private equity that's driving up housing prices. So there are some honest people, and in the case of Charlie, unfortunately there was some honest people who are actually telling the truth about what's going on with housing prices. So is it the giant banks buying them up with cash, or is it people with almost no money magically buying up 30% of the houses and driving up the costs? No, of course it's the bankers. And in this case, it's not a question anyway. It's definitively the bankers. We just showed you the numbers. So don't get distracted by the squirrels. Politicians in both parties, and in this case, JD Vance, by the way, we're not even doing this justice. In that little segment, he had 3 giant lies about how Biden drove up the prices by 100%, but for houses, but Trump only brought them up 1%. I just lie after lie, right? And that's because he's desperately trying to protect his Wall Street donors.
Yep.
All right, we're way out of time. Jordan, you're awesome. We appreciate you, brother. #FreeTheHair. And when we come back, everybody stay here. For the revolution, we're gonna have Andrew Yang come in and we're gonna talk to him about, do we need a third party to revolt against the uniparty of the Democrats and the Republicans? So stay right here and we'll do that conversation right afterwards. All right, guys, welcome to the Revolution. That's the show we're doing now to try to revolt peacefully, nonviolent, against the political system that we have now. We're not revolting against the Constitution. We love the Constitution. We'd love to go back to the Constitution. Not revolting against democracy. We love democracy. We'd love to go back to democracy, right? We're revolting against this current corrupt system. So joining me in studio now is a guy who's used to a little bit of a revolt against this so-called two-party system, Andrew Yang. Hey,
Welcome.
how you doing, brother?
Great to be here, Cenk. We're going to revolt against that which is revolting.
Oh, there you go. Okay. It's good to have you back in the studio, brother.
It's great to be here. It's been too long. I'm going to have to become a regular, a new regular.
All right, I like it. So, okay, let's start on politics. At the end, one of our members has a question for you on Noble Mobile, so I'll throw that in, but let's stick 98% to politics here. So you got the Forward Party, obviously.
Yes.
So tell us about that. Tell us why you think we need a third party, and is that the right way to go instead of going through the primaries and among Republicans or Democrats?
I certainly think so, based on the math, and everyone knows I'm a numbers guy. So my question for Dems of any variety is, how are you going to legislate if you can't get 51 votes in the US Senate? It's very, very hard to see a path for the Democrats to have a majority in the Senate unless you can start contesting places like Nebraska, where Dan Osborne just last year got 50% of the vote in polling as an independent and then ended up at 47% because Deb Fischer, his Republican incumbent opponent, spent $13 million branding him as a Democrat. So the point is that an independent can contest a place like Nebraska in a way that a card-carrying Democrat could not. And that's exactly what you're going to need to form a majority in the Senate. You're going to need a place like Nebraska or Utah or Montana to be contested in a way that could not succeed if you had someone with a D next to their name in any of those places.
Yeah, you know, now we got an interesting situation where they gerrymander things so much that it almost forces a third party, right? Because it's not just in areas where a Democrat can't win, like Nebraska. It's also areas like Hawaii and Rhode Island where a Republican can't win, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you're not gonna get a Republican to win in for mayor of New York, we just found out, right? As an example, and so it forces folks to start looking at third parties.
It's the only way to have any real dynamism or responsiveness in the system, and this redistricting war just made it worse. And like, look, I get it. If one side does it, the other side feels like they have to do the same. But what's going to happen is independents are going to look up and say, okay, I might as well not even show up to vote in this because we know that a Democrat or Republican is going to represent literally 90% of the districts before a single vote gets cast. And that's not healthy, especially when now 49% of Americans say that we're independents. 2/3 of young people don't think either of the two major parties represents them. So the independent groundswell is growing and growing as their ability to vote for an independent at the ballot box just keeps getting reduced. So something has to give, and our bet at Forward is that you're going to see more Dan Osbornes, more Mike Duggins in Michigan, more Yemi Mobolade, who became mayor of Colorado Springs, a very deep red town, as an independent, happens to be an immigrant from, I believe, Nigeria. He's a black immigrant who became mayor of like a deep red town. So you're going to see more and more independent figures end up rising up.
Yeah, and then there's another advantage to that, right? Which is that once they're independent, they actually are independent. So then they don't have to do what Chuck Schumer says or John Thune says, because they're not in that party. So then they could begin to think for themselves and go, well, yeah, well, I mean, I'm anti-war, good news. Democrats and Republicans are both anti-war, right? But I'll take a little bit from the Democrats, I'll take a little bit from the Republicans, and so you're not just stuck in these forever ideologies.
I'm gonna say two things that I'm sure most people here would agree with. In terms of goals, goal number one would be get money out of politics, and goal number two would be open primaries and voting reforms. I'm gonna suggest that an independent elected is much more likely to adopt both of those things, because if you're in the two major parties, it's like, no, you can't, like give the money away or unilaterally disarm the other side, blah, blah, blah. But independent can make those decisions because they know that the vast majority of voters would love it if we could make it so that all primaries were nonpartisan or open and everyone could vote, or that you didn't need gobs and gobs of money to influence policy.
So one of the last times you were sitting here, you were running for president on the Democratic Party side. Right?
Yeah, I remember. I obviously won. That's why things are going so well. $1,000 a month to all, a chicken in every pot. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm very proud of the run because I was trying to alert the country to AI back in 2018, 2019, and then here we are.
Yeah, I mean, but it's not like AI came along and everybody's worried about job losses and now beginning to think about universal.
It's not like any of that's happening. No.
So it's not like you were preaching about that. But okay, but you ran as a Democrat. And so now, but some people say, is it really Democrats and Republicans, or is it just their uniparty? What's your take on that?
I think that there's a distinction between the two parties as they exist right now, but that if you want very, very substantial changes, it's unlikely to come from either party. And so I see the uniparty argument that if you want something really enormous and impactful, this system is unlikely to give it to you, regardless of which party's in power, and that pains me. I mean, I ran as a Democrat in part because I had been a Democrat for much of my adult life. I only left the Democratic Party when I concluded that the things I think we're going to have to do to respond to AI and automation will not come from the two-party system. So then, what do you do?
Why did you come to that conclusion?
I did the math. I genuinely broke it down and said, okay, what is the high water mark for either party in terms of its ability to enact some of these sweeping policies? What are the forces within the party? What happened? By the way, I wrote that book forward before the Democratic Party failed to primary Joe Biden and shivved Dean Phillips for the temerity of running against him, and you were in that primary too. I thought that was beyond the pale and egregious in terms of what they did. Like, I thought that maybe they'd say, you know what, it's literally the name of the party, we should probably have a vote. But they didn't even, they didn't even bother. So like the insularity of the parties led me to conclude that, look, you're going to need something different.
Yeah, I never put quite together like that. You're right. The name of the party is Democrat, and they're like, let's not be Democrats. Let's not do democracy.
I joked, Cenk. I was like, you should just change the name of your party to the Selectors, like or
the Anointers.
Yeah. Like, we're gonna select for you, and your vote. If you want to feel like you did something, you can vote.
Yeah, so there's now an upside with young people that I'm going to come back to, but first the bad news. So mainstream media, it feels like, I talk about it all the time, but I'm curious your take on it. And you dealt with them at the presidential level, you dealt with them when you ran for mayor in New York, and now as the guy leading the Forward Party, etc. So they're the guys who said, what lack of democracy in the Democratic primary? We're not going to report on it. Oh, Dean Phillips is taken off the ballot, let alone Cenk and Marianne, etc., in all these different states. Oh, who cares?
The media was 10 times more likely to publish a hit piece on what a jerk Dean Phillips was, rather than point out that this is a sitting member of Congress, and that they won't hear him out. They won't have a debate. They canceled state primaries on him and you and Marianne, etc.
Yeah, and again, they have an excuse with me because of the whole, naturalized citizen thing, and I think that's something that should be resolved in the courts, and I'm positive I'm right about it. But at least they have an excuse.
And there was no excuse with Dean. Dean was like, again, third term sitting member of Congress, vice chair of the DNC, raising his hand and saying, I think we should have a primary, and they wouldn't even hear him out.
Yeah, so that gives the game away, not just for the Democratic Party, but for mainstream media, who then said, no, just like you said, we'd rather attack Dean Phillips than say, hey, wait a minute, why aren't they doing a primary? This is insane.
It was insane, you said it, and I appreciate that you also stood up and fought to make that case where having an 81-year-old historically unpopular incumbent as your nominee was malpractice, and here we are.
Yeah, so now back to hope, because you gave that stat about 2/3 of young people don't believe in either party, right? So we covered a story a couple of days ago. Trump, back in February of this year, was up 8 points with young voters, okay? Now he's down 55 points.
Wow.
So he lost 63 points within about 9 months.
That's staggering.
That's staggering, right? Because I think what young people are doing is they're like, okay, let's try Democrat. Nah, that didn't work. Let's try Republican. No, that didn't work, right? So they're looking for a home. So, but if, let's say the home is Forward Party or any other third party that comes along, how long does that take to go from, hey, we got a base with under 30-year-olds, under 40-year-olds, et cetera. Can it be in the next election cycle, or is this going to take decades?
It could be in the next election cycle, depending upon the presidential ticket. And so if you can imagine a young people friendly independent primary with, let's say hypothetically, me, Mark Cuban, Matthew McConaughey, Oprah Winfrey, Adam Kinzinger, Justin Amash, like whoever, Liz Cheney, I mean, like, different cups of tea. And then young people could actually vote in this primary on their smartphone. And then the legacy parties would be left saying, no, that's not real. What is real is waiting to hear what 6% of Iowans say in February. And then young people would be like, wait, no, that's what's not real. Like I'm actually watching these people debate. In 1992, which you and I are old enough to remember, Ross Perot got 19% of the vote and 25% of Americans said they're independents. Today, 49% say they're independents, and it's going up all the time. And so what is the hypothetical ceiling for an independent candidate or an independent ticket? And one of the great things about this independent vote on your smartphone primary is that Americans, young people in particular, would be like, oh, they're actually giving it back to us, the people. And so even if your candidate didn't win in that primary, you'd still be much more likely to support the winner, especially if the winner were to turn around and say, hey, I want all of these people to be in my cabinet, or most of them, or the best of them, or whatnot. Then you could get escape velocity and get tens of millions of Americans say, oh my gosh, we have a legitimate chance to turn the page. Could that happen in 2028? Sure. I mean, like all the pieces are in place. The legacy media is getting weaker, independent party identification is going up. The media environment is incredibly ripe for this.
Yeah, so first of all, I want to just say, he didn't mean Liz Cheney. Don't hold it against him, he didn't mean it.
I was just throwing out names of people that could not run within the legacy parties as an illustration, because if you had a truly independent primary, I mean, like again, like I'm not everyone's cup of tea, like I get that, and so, but the point of this would be to let the American people have their say. And by the way, there are a lot of people, excellent people, that would love to run, that know they would not get a fair shake within one party's primary or the other, that might be drawn to this.
Yeah, and I'm kidding, because who cares if Liz Cheney runs? Like, if the Forward Party turned into the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, although to be fair, these days, in terms of limiting options, the Democrats are much worse, right? So in 2016, the Republicans had 17 people in the race, including an outsider like Trump. Not a populist, he's an establishment outsider, so he's in his own category, right? But the Democrats limit choices. But if Forward Party did that, then there'd be no point. So why not? Sure, of course Liz Cheney can run, or anyone can run. Shaitan can run.
Yeah, that's the point. And it's not for me or anyone else to determine who's like an acceptable candidate. I mean, like you have to let the people decide.
Yeah, and by the way, that's the point of a democracy, right? And so if it turns out Liz Cheney miraculously gets 51%, then she won. If she gets 1%, well, then she got 1%. A sad day for you, right? So, and if the people you mentioned run, trust me that people would pay attention. Okay, we'd have a game changer.
You just need one media magnet And the fact is, the debate I just described would be 10 times more interesting than whatever's going on the Democratic side or the Republican side, particularly because one side or the other will probably cancel their primary. You know,
yeah, I know, right? Yeah, like, oh yeah, we were gonna do a primary, but yeah, screw everybody else. No way, we're anointing. But the more they anoint, the more people leave the House, right? And so now the Democratic approval is down to 28%. But I'm gonna come back to mainstream media because I can't help it. Because when you said something, it triggered it for me. You said independents are now 49%. That's right, and independents are now larger than Republicans or Democrats.
Yes.
Okay, by party affiliation. Do you ever hear the media talking about independents? Like they are always talking about Republicans, Democrats, as if they're the only things that exist. But there's the elephant in the room is independents are larger than both of those categories, but yet mainstream media never talks about that.
Yeah, because the mainstream media has picked a side in just about every instance. And one of the things I might say to you is that Forward now has, let's call it 60 elected officials who are affiliated around the country, including Mayor of Fort Collins, Colorado, Jenny Art, who left the Democratic Party to join Forward. And in South Carolina, you had a Forwardist who was running on the Forward ballot just win outright to be the mayor. And my fun hypothetical is like, okay, we have 60 elected officials. Let's say it was 600. Let's say it was 6,000. At what point would the mainstream media be like, you know what? Turns out that you can have a third party in America. Look at this army of elected officials around the country. There would never be a point where they would write that story because all of their money is being made in the blue versus red clash. And so if you had tens of thousands of races around the country that are now flipping because so many people have had it, they would just pretend it didn't happen until it started happening where the money center is, which is in Congress or at the White House.
Yeah, and also that money center also goes to them, right? Because, and maybe that's how the Forward Party can break into the national conversation. Because if you guys spend a ton of money buying ads in mainstream media, then all of a sudden they're like, ooh, the Forward Party, that is a very interesting alternative.
Yeah, that's a pretty good idea. They're getting increasingly desperate for money. We could be the new pharma.
Forwarda.
Forwarda, it'll make you feel great. It'll invigorate you.
And you said forwardist. I don't know about that. Forwarder? I don't know. We'll have to work on it.
Believe it or not, Forwardist is actually a word. Like you look up the dictionary when we were forming. It's like, oh, it turns out Forwardist is actually a thing.
Really? I didn't know that. Yeah. You know what?
Merriam-Webster.
You shouldn't admit that.
Nerdy Asian guy looks in the dictionary. Forwardist.
But you shouldn't admit that. You should pull a Trump and be like, no one knew the word forwardist. I invented it. I came up with it. Okay. Actually,
it does sound a little bit like we made it up.
He would go further. He'd say, no one had ever heard of forward. I came up with the word forward.
Well, my joke is that backward party was taken. It might even have been taken twice.
Okay, I had not heard that. That is funny. Okay, now let me drop a hypothetical for you where all of a sudden you're one of the most important people in the country. Okay, you like it so far?
I know, it seems very close to the world we live in now.
So we're laughing a little too hard at that. It's like when I make a joke about me being overweight and everybody laughs in the room, like, whoa.
Wasn't that funny?
Anyways, seriously, look, I don't think this is gonna happen, but if the Democrats picked a corporate Democrat like Pete Buttigieg, well, that could happen, right? But sure. So it's not at all impossible, right? And the Republicans picked a corporate Republican like Marco Rubio. Now that's less likely, right?
Possible though.
But not impossible, right? And you've got two corporate candidates. I think the American people are gonna snap. They're gonna go, no, I can't. Rubio says we work for Israel. Buttigieg says we work for Israel. Rubio says we work for corporations. Buttigieg says we work for corporations. Right? Like, is that a situation where you think that's it, ball game, let's go, we're in this thing?
I think so much of it hinges on who decides to run as an independent candidate, because to what we just discussed, the mainstream media will first, they have a playbook first they'll just try and ignore and blot them out, and then second, they will attack their reputation in various ways. So you have to have a candidate who can break through those two layers in order to get escape velocity, because what happens is independent candidates tend to veer either down, generally down, or up based upon their viability. When people conclude, you know what, 10% it's not gonna do it, then they go down from 10% to 2%. And so if you have a candidate who can break through and then present a real choice to all the young people who are hungry for an alternative, then you can get the upward trajectory instead of the downward, down the stretch. And by the way, this Ross Perot got a 19%. He actually dropped out of that race and then came back in. So the 19% is something of an understatement of what he should have gotten. And back then, only half as many Americans said they're independent. So I am obviously totally convinced that this two-party system is ripe for the taking if you have the right candidates and pieces in place.
So I'm not even sure you need this magical candidate, and so I'm going to go back to media, and we're going to talk about online media in a second, right? But to your point about mainstream media, I mean, they're amazing. So Trump starts at 1%. People forget that it's 1%, okay? But since he was a celebrity, they're like, oh, Trump, and he starts to rise, right? And people start to listen to him, and then he says, oh, the establishment sucks, and they're like, whoa, I like that message, right? Okay, this is a little self-aggrandizing, but it's an important example. When I ran as a protest candidate. I'm a naturalized citizen, so I've got this huge. I'm a rando talk show host that's online, so enormous disadvantages. First poll, I'm at 2%, okay? So actually more than Trump had when he first started. Zero coverage, none, zero. So they're like, no.
Yuppers, yeah.
Yeah, we're disqualifying you. It doesn't matter. At that point, like Michael Bennet ran, never got past 1%. Tons of people, senators, governors have never gotten past 1%. But when they're running, oh, Michael, oh my God, amazing, Republican or Democrat, senator, congressman. But they give away the game. Then Dean Phillips runs, and he's a congressman, and they go, never mind, we didn't mean congressman. Okay,
no. So this is my point: is that if you run as an independent candidate, the mainstream media will not give you the time of day. I'm sure a lot of the online podcaster universe would have the person on if they had, something interesting to say, a credible background, like certain level of resources, as someone who's been through a version of this journey. And so if you look at that Venn diagram, it does start to shrink, because the average American, we all know, is like struggling month to month and like doesn't even have time to like go to various studios. I mean, you need someone with a certain degree of notoriety or network or resources or acumen from the get-go, and even then, they'll try and like pretend that they don't exist for the certain period. So like, how do you break through that? And then if you have a degree of celebrity or whatnot, they will shiv you. And then so you need enough following or resources to get through that. Now there are, and you and I know them, I mean, there are like, let's call it like dozens of Americans who I think could run as independents and get 3, 5, 7, 10%. And the percentage would be significant in part because so many Americans are so fed up with the you lose, I lose, you lose, I lose. Ooh, it turns out that people have been losing the entire time, like dynamic that is the two parties.
No, you're starting to talk me into it. Okay, so look, in fact, as you were giving that answer, I thought, wait a minute, maybe we're underselling this thing. So why? So now traditionally when you think about someone, you mentioned like Matthew McConaughey and Oprah and Mark Cuban.
The media couldn't resist that.
Exactly, they have enough media wattage that it's irresistible, right?
Yeah.
So the guy I often talk about in the context of a Democratic primary is Jon Stewart. Again,
He'd be great.
He'd be amazing, right?
Yeah.
And so, but if the Democrats lock down, the Republicans lock down, and they go corporate, then that opens up Jon Stewart for an independent run, et cetera. But then I've already been over. But wait a minute, the way that you can really catapult a candidate in this day and age is online media. Go on all the podcasts, right?
Yes.
What if a podcaster ran? So the mainstream media, like you name it, Rogan, Dylan, Schultz, whatever, they would all be like, oh, outrageous. Jake Tapper, I mean, he looks so far down his nose, it'd be like Mount Everest, right? Like, a podcast is running, right? And they would, ignore it, ridicule it, etc. But all the podcasters would have him on, right?
100%, because a lot of them know each other. And if they respect and admire the person and think they can have a high quality exchange with them, then they totally have him on. And I mean, some of those people were in like the X dozen I was thinking of, but you need someone of that like level in order, even because it's not that easy to get a top podcast to have you on if you were, Joe Schmo or someone new on the scene.
Yeah, for sure. So but it's a bigger category than I think was previously possible for a candidate that could jump forward, if you will. I didn't even realize it as I was saying it. Okay, anyways. All right. Oh my God, we're already out of time. Jeez, and Lord mercy, that went quick. Okay, wait, I gotta ask you about a couple things. You got a book coming out?
Oh wow, I'm not.
Can I not say that?
It's gonna be announced on Monday, so please do keep an eye out. But yeah, I have a book coming out in February.
We're on Friday. You gotta help me break the news.
And I'm here. Okay, I will break the news, though you can't even find it. But it's called "Hey Yang, Where's My $1,000?" And other true stories of staggering depth. The alternate title was "Hey, am I racist or are you Andrew Yang?" Both of these things have been asked of me, and it's humorous inside accounts of the last number of years because I had all of these stories I never had an opportunity to share, and so I decided to write them down in book form.
Did you go back to growing up and all that?
I did, because when you start telling these stories and you're like, oh shoot, I guess I have to share a little bit of my upbringing, and then you mine it for humor, and and then it goes from there. I didn't intend to originally. When I sat down to write it down, I was like, okay, I'm gonna start it at this year, but then it didn't make any sense. So I had to go back a little bit further.
Yeah, so you're a busy brother here, okay? So you're doing Forward Party, you got the book coming out, and I appreciate that you broke the news here, and everybody make sure you're checking it out on Monday, okay? So you have a place where you could buy it. So where should they go, by the way?
The easiest thing, if you just go to andrewyang.com, we'll have a link up.
andrewyang.com, that's super easy, okay? And then you got the Noble Mobile pin on your jacket.
Yes, Noble Mobile, let's go.
And so we're doing a partnership here. You can show it. We're transparent. We're not playing like nobody's hiding the ball. Go.tyt.com/switch. We don't look. I didn't want to do it in the main discussion because the main discussion is enormously important and real. But part of the reason that I brought it up is one of our members, Church of the Illinois, wrote in earlier in the show. Okay, when we were doing the Young Turks. Speaking of Noble Mobile, Cenk, what is the max data amount? Do you know? Thanks. And I don't know. Now I'm putting you on the spot again. I don't know if you know.
So thank you for the question. I have confessions to make. I am a very, very heavy phone user and a heavy data user.
Oh my God, what are you doing? You're too honest.
No, and so I roll through, and there is technically no maximum to a Noble Mobile account because we just use data. I'm frankly, again, like probably in like the top 1 or 2 percentile of data users. And so there is no max is the genuine answer. And we have some people that are testing out what that means. But I use, to throw a number on it, I might use 25 gigs a month, which puts me in like a very high band.
So, but you get money back if you don't use as much.
So this month, I used a lot of data and I just paid $50 and did not get any money back. Last month, I got a few bucks back. And again, I'm on the road a lot. I travel all the time. I have friends also who are heavy users. And what happened was I was paying Verizon $140 a month before this switch. So I go from $140 to $50. I'm thrilled. And I know $50 is the max I can pay. By the way, the other thing, what was the caller's name?
Well, it's Churchy of the Illinois.
Churchy. So if you travel abroad, when I was on Verizon, I paid $10 a day. And then when I came home, I got my original bill again, so I was paying like 100 for traveling, then 140 when I got back. With Noble, it's $5 a day to be out of the country, and we cap it at 10 days. So you can only pay $50 max. We're essentially trying to cut everyone's phone bills in half because Americans are getting screwed. We're paying $83 a month for our data. Europeans are paying $35 a month. And if you look at that, $48 a month times 12 times 20. I mean, you're looking at thousands and thousands of dollars that could go towards your kids' college tuition. I overpaid Verizon by 15 grand plus, and I'm pissed. And so Noble Mobile's hopefully going to save you all that money and stress. You can only pay 50 as a max no matter what you do. And if you use it less, we'll give you even more money back. And you can get off your phone and look at your family's lovely, adoring faces.
Yeah. So I love how you're too honest, because you're supposed to say like, oh no, I'm getting money back because
my wife mocks me. I mean, you've met Evelyn.
Right.
My wife Evelyn's like, you are like the worst role model for this, because but I think it's relatable.
To be fair, I know you got to watch at least 2 hours of Young Turks every day, and so that's a lot of data usage.
It's a lot of data. See, you know what we should do? We should exempt TYT from data use on Noble.
Oh,
that would be
good
the greatest
idea. I like that
idea of all time.
Okay, we got to wrap up because it's turning too much of an ad. But it does answer the question of your
There's no
book.
limit. There is no max.
No, but it does go to the question of your book, which is, hey, where's my $1,000, Yang? You're like, oh, Noble Mobile, you gay.
I want to save you that money so you can have it, live a better life, and then hopefully we can get that done from the government at some point. But I was like, look, I'm an impatient entrepreneur. Let's just give it back to people as quickly as we can.
All right, sounds good. Okay, but most importantly, guys, the rise of independence, back to the real thing, is for the first, like I used to always say, nah, it's gonna take so much money to run as a third party at the presidential level. I don't know that that's the best way to go. But I have never seen a moment this ripe. So
yeah, you're right.
I don't know that it's gonna happen in 2028, but it might. And if it doesn't happen in 28 and the candidate, whoever wins, Democrat or Republican, again doesn't deliver, then for sure in 2032, there's gonna be an independent, significant independent candidate.
Yes.
So way to lead on all this. I appreciate it, Andrew. Great to have you here.
Thanks
brother.
for having me, man. It's been great to be here.
Absolutely. That's why we have open conversations, so we can find answers where others can't. So I love it. All right, guys, much love. We'll see you tomorrow.